Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Hey, here we are. It's a Kool-Aid Victory Monday. Look, it matches the helmet, kind of.
Yes,
Not
it
really,
does.
but on the camera, it kind of looks like it does. And our shirts, my shirt is kind of orangish.
You're wearing Cardinals red.
Is this Cardinals red?
Yeah, I think it is.
Is that Rutgers red?
It's just regular red. It's no.
Is it fuchsia?
I don't know what it is. I got a humming. Anybody else hearing a humming in their ear?
A little bit.
Anyway.
Slightly.
A lot to get to on today's Monday Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We went to the Mun Lot yesterday. G. Bush, Mikey McNuggets, and I, plus G. Bush's entire family was there. Mikey McNuggets' girlfriend was there. We had Daryl as our bodyguard, and we had an amazing, amazing time. What a great experience it was.
Crazy experience. Right? I brought my whole family and made them pass T-shirts out.
It was a great, great day. Perfect weather. We'll get to that later.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah. What do you mean? Everybody was invited. You didn't show up for barbecue either.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I had a long day yesterday.
That's a nice jacket, by the way.
We're going to spend plenty of time on the Browns' victory over Arizona. We're going to get to Deshaun Watson's performance, the running game, the special teams, the AFC North, and of course we'll start with the defense which led the way. But first we'll say hi to Mikey McNuggets.
And before we do an ad read,
yeah,
we got to go around the horn, guys. I want to hear your
that's
shotgun
true.
reactions.
I forgot that part.
90 seconds. And Jason, you can start us off.
Go ahead, Jason.
Real quick, your overall thoughts before we do an ad read and get into the minutia and the specifics of this absolutely dominant win for the Cleveland Browns.
My overall thoughts are, I've told you all before how much I hate being wrong. Luckily, it doesn't happen very often. But Friday I was wrong because I said I didn't think he should play. Obviously, it was the right call to play Deshaun Watson yesterday. I don't think he looked great. First half I thought was really kind of unstable. Second half was better, something to build off. So maybe that is the rust knocking off that he needed to have done. I was basing that. I had seen some videos during the show on Friday of some of his throws and thought, this guy, he is not ready to play. This is a mistake. And the first two drives, he couldn't throw it over 5 yards. And then he cut one loose on the third drive and ripped it 59 yards to Amari Cooper and sort of settled in after that. So I was wrong. I admit it. It was the right call to play Deshaun. And while I don't think he's back, it certainly was something to build off going forward.
Yeah, man, I thought it was cool to see some of those confident plays. I think when you don't have when you don't have any experience or any plays to bank on, sometimes as an athlete, you have to have some recent success that you had, recently that you bank on, that you can take withdrawals out and say, okay, if I'm struggling today, yeah, but I still remember that I can make plays and I can use that to continue to have my confidence. I thought in the first half, to be honest, I thought Kevin Stefanski really did a good job of calling the plays. And people say, well, what? G. Bush, what you talking about? You giving Kevin Stefanski props? Of course. I call a spade a spade. I thought he did a really good job. The running game wasn't overly dominant, but one of the things that he stayed true to the fact was, I'm going to still give this ball off. I'm not going to be back here throwing the ball 100,000 times. I thought even though they didn't have a large number of average per carry, I thought he did a good job of establishing. And I knew Deshaun Watson was feeling good because not by the throws, because he made 3 really big throws that we'll talk about throughout the show. I thought more importantly, he took a lot of hits in the first half. He scrambled, got hit. He got hit on a personal foul. He got hit late a few times. And when he made the scramble and gets up and does the first down, I know you're feeling yourself right now. I know you're ready to go. And he's starting to be like, okay, all right, this is cool. I'm getting more energetic, and I'm back with a little more energy. So I thought that was cool.
I also thought it was interesting the way his teammates were kind of hyping him up after the game. I thought that was interesting. I agree with a lot of what Jason said about first half. I was very concerned. He didn't look good to me at all. The touchdown was lucky. We all know that ball got tipped. But I thought in the second half he played well. And so I think it was obviously the right call for him to play because you wouldn't want him to have – he has a rusty first half against the Ravens. The Browns are going down.
It's 21-0 at the half.
Right.
He plays like that.
He's going to have to play well for 4 quarters, not 2 against the Ravens. But we'll get to that. But the highlight of the day to me was the defense, which we'll get to more in depth in a minute, but very impressive. Listen, I get it. The Cardinals' offense is about as inept right now as you could possibly get. You have a quarterback that, at best, is a backup at this point. You had outside of Marquise Brown, they got a nice young tight end who they couldn't get the ball to yesterday, but they really have no talent on their offense. They couldn't protect. The Browns just demolished them. But what I really stood out to me about the defense as we transition now to Mikey was that they never took the foot off the gas the entire game. That shutout meant something.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to blank the Cardinals, and they did. Mikey McNuggets.
I appreciate that, guys. And we have a FanDuel ticket to show you guys in 1 sec that actually helps someone win a lot of money on the Browns game. And if you want to be like our winning FanDuel ticket winner of the day, you can score early in the NFL season with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, brand new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins by placing an easy $5 winning moneyline bet. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL and an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. The Browns open this week as a 5.5-point underdog against Baltimore on FanDuel. And our winning ticket of the day comes from Tanios Henry, who had a 4-part same-game parlay on the Browns. I take that back, a 6-part same-game parlay on the Browns this week. He had Deshaun Watson over 1.5 touchdown passes, over 203 passing yards. Amari Cooper over 90 receiving yards. Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown. Browns on the money line and under 46.5 points. And that turned $2.35 into $102.47, a 50-to-1 return on investment for our guy Tanios.
Yeah, that was I wouldn't have sounded like a tricky parlay. I would have thought that would hit, but nice job at him. I saw somebody last night bet $700 on FanDuel for Irv Smith Jr., the Bengals tight end who had done almost nothing all season.
That's crazy.
To score the first touchdown, and he hit it. It was 28-1. I'm surprised it wasn't 100-1.
Wow.
That's
You put 700 on it?
Yeah, but unless I'm reading it wrong, it's hard to see my eyes.
What is that?
My eyes on my phone. I don't know. I don't know. 28 times 7.
Well, it was $7, not 70.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
My bad.
I was going to say.
It's hard to see on my phone. I should be wearing. I wear glasses when I read. I should really wear glasses for my phone too, because it's a little hard for me to see. So he bet $7. And how much did he win? 2,800.
Yeah, 7 times 28 would be.
No.
Like 200, right?
Yeah, he won $200.
Oh, okay. I thought it was more than.
Still a good win. And still a good hit.
That, but
and shout out to that guy.
anyway,
But Bull.
Yeah.
You alluded to it 1 second ago. This defense yesterday was so good. I don't give a rat's you-know-what about the opponent, Clayton Tune, whoever. To hold a team to 58 total yards and 0 points while forcing 3 turnovers and getting 7 sacks is as impressive as a defensive performance as we've seen in a long time.
By the way, this is a first in the history of fantasy football this has ever happened to me. I have a league where I have the Browns defense. Okay, this league is a very high-scoring league. Like a good week is – most fantasy leagues, if you score 150 points, that's a great week. In this league, a great week is 250 points.
Yeah,
to put it in perspective.
like that,
okay,
yeah.
The Browns defense, like – a defense is if a defense has a good week, they'll score you 20, 25 points.
Right.
The Browns defense got me 47 points yesterday,
Wow.
which is the most I think maybe not ever, but the most I've ever gotten. That's how good the Browns defense was. 7 sacks, guys, 3 turnovers. The only thing they didn't actually do was score themselves.
Myles was trying to.
He was on that fumble.
He said Obo tackled him.
But, listen, we all acknowledge that the Cardinals didn't have much talent on offense.
Right.
Fair to acknowledge
They're still
that.
an NFL team.
But, as you said, still an NFL team. And the Browns didn't just play well on defense. They were completely lights out. The best play by the Cardinals all day, they got screwed on that call by the ref. Remember they called that one play towards the end of the first half?
Yeah.
They had like a 25-yard gain. That was a terrible call. Not that it would have mattered. The Cardinals, I think they never got the ball past the Browns 43. Is that correct?
Well, Clayton Tune had a negative ADOT deep into the game, like multiple possessions in the game, and ADOT is average depth of target, how far you're throwing it down the field.
Right.
I've never seen a quarterback have a negative
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, because they kept throwing it behind the line of scrimmage and getting tackled right away. It was like negative 3.2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Well into the first quarter, maybe even into the second quarter.
Right.
So that just shows you how he had no chance.
Wow.
And two of his I think he threw 3 balls over 10 yards and 2 of them were picked off.
Wow.
Like they had no chance.
Well, that throw he made where Denzel Ward made the pick was a terrible throw. However, that was a great play by Denzel Ward.
It was.
That's not an easy, like that ball had some meat, like some juice on it, and he had to dive.
He threw it behind. He threw it
Over Marquise Brown.
Over Marquise Brown,
Yeah.
but behind him too.
Yeah,
So
it was a terrible
Denzel's
throw.
momentum was carrying him to the middle of the field. He had to dive back towards the sideline to make the catch.
That was a great play. Denzel Ward, guys, and we'll get to all the other guys who are doing great right now. I think Denzel Ward at the moment, we talk so much about Martin Emerson since he's come in and he's done a great job. I think Denzel, first of all, they could arguably, and now to be fair, I'm not breaking down the corners on other teams. I find it hard to believe there's a better corner tandem right now.
I said that last week.
Yeah.
What did we come up with? The Jets, right?
Somebody
The
mentioned
Jets
the
are
Jets.
up there.
Somebody mentioned the Seahawks is really good.
But they're certainly in the
I don't know.
conversation.
I mean, Denzel Ward is just playing his best football.
This is the best he's played in his career. He's
Yeah,
healthy. Knock on wood.
Yep.
We know about his injury past. We know about the concussions. Hopefully that stays. Hopefully he can stay on the field. But he's playing at an incredibly high level. And for a while, especially early on in the game, the Browns were only playing with one cornerback. They had Denzel on the field, and Martin was off the field because they had no respect for the Cardinals throwing the ball. They were playing with one cornerback. They knew they were going to run it.
That's crazy. I didn't even realize that.
Go back and watch the first possession of the game. Martin was on the field for the first snap, and then he goes, and I told Zach, I'm like, where's Emerson? Like, he's not even in.
Well, because you have Marquise Brown, they have a terrible quarterback. Their number 2 wide receiver, Wilson, was hurt. He didn't play. And they were using Rondell Moore kind of like a running back.
Yeah. I checked the snap count because I stopped paying attention after a while.
Yeah.
And Emerson actually played more snaps than Denzel, so it did even out. But early on,
that's funny.
They were playing with one corner because Greg was out, Newsom was out, obviously, and Emerson was on the sideline. It was just Denzel on the field.
Man, I thought Taki did a good job of baiting him on that one throw.
Yeah.
They tried to run a high-low concept, and he was just like, yeah, I'm not watching the guy behind me. I'm all on this flat route down here. And they're like, no, I'm not. And he just jumps in front of him and makes an interception. I feel sorry for the Cardinals because I don't know how many times we've watched the Browns and we've had to try out quarterbacks that have either been off the street or backups, guys that are 6th-round picks. And they come out here and have no shot.
That Cardinals team yesterday looked a lot like a lot of Browns teams we've seen in the last decade.
Typically in December. That's a December Browns team.
December Browns.
Fortunately, it's not the case anymore, but that was
Connor
pitiful.
Shaw.
Why'd you? I was just going to say Connor Shaw. I don't know why. I was going. That's
I wonder
the
what
first
Connor
person
Shaw
I was
is
going.
doing these days.
My goodness. And then we would always ask, well, he did have some nice throws.
You always try and talk yourself into it.
How's about bringing him back next year? No.
Well, Clayton Tune did not have one nice throw.
1.6 QBR.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's pretty bad, I'd say.
You mentioned Taki. He's really kind of grown into a serviceable player.
Wow.
A couple of years ago, he was like, oh, man, I don't know how much longer this guy's going to be here. And when he moved into the middle last year after Walker went down, he really sort of came into his own a little bit. And I don't know what the almighty PFF thinks of Sione Taki, but I see him making plays out there.
Well, you know what I've noticed, and maybe this has helped him? He's been playing less. He's taken less snaps, but he's been more effective when he's been in there. I wonder, maybe, some guys, the more you play them, the worse they are.
Yeah.
Some guys are better the more you play them. Maybe Taki's one of these guys. If you just use him in the right spots, he can play well.
It's the Delonte West effect. If you give Delonte West 13 minutes, he's going to have 12 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. If you pay him 19, 20, 30 minutes, he's still going to have that same stat line.
So, Bull, to that point, I saw a tweet from Jack Duffin this morning who had the Browns linebacker snap count percentage done week by week. So, in weeks 1 to week 6, JOK was on the field for 73% of Browns defensive snaps. Anthony Walker, 63%. Taki, 54%. Weeks 7, 8, and 9, the last 3 weeks, Anthony Walker's jumped up 18% from 63% to 81%. So he's essentially on the field at all times.
Yeah.
JOK's dropped from 73% of snaps to 52% of snaps. And Taki's dropped from 54% of snaps to 24%.
Wow. So he's
and
only
also
playing 1 out of 4 plays.
And Tony Fields has gone from 2% to 37%.
But
I wonder if
go
it's a
ahead,
weird
finish.
trend, if there's anything more to it. than
Well,
just
I think they're
matchup
just playing
related,
more
but-
DBs.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're just going more 2 linebacker sets and more
Right.
extra, whether it's Rodney McLeod, 3, you're playing more nickel and even dime and less 3 linebacker sets.
And I didn't see, and I'm anxious to see the film. I mean, I thought Mitchell played a lot in this game, and he wasn't giving up much. I mean, if he can catch the football, he might have a couple picks on
He
this
went to
year, too.
Northwestern.
You know
yeah.
how they feel about that.
That's right.
Interceptions at Northwestern.
Interceptions ain't their
That's
thing.
really not there.
Guys, we've talked a lot about the fact that Jim Schwartz has done a great job, which he has, right? But the biggest difference, the 2 biggest differences on this team, one, they went from the worst group of defensive tackles to, I don't know where it ranks, but it's certainly in the top 10, I would
Yes.
think. They're playing really well at defensive tackle. And last year the linebackers were all hurt. This year they're all healthy.
Health
The
has so
Browns,
much
you know,
to
the
do
Browns
with
have been clobbered by injuries on the offense, which we get to with Jed Wills, and we all know that.
Knock on
On
wood.
defense, knock on wood, they've had almost no injuries. Greg Newsom's been in and out of the lineup a little bit.
Yeah.
Outside of him, everybody else has been, stayed healthy, and that's been a big difference.
And that's what's allowed them to rotate those tackles, which they've never
That's
had
right.
the depth before
Never.
to keep rolling new guys in and fresh legs in. This year they've been able to do that because they upgraded the talent and they have depth that's been able to stay healthy.
That's huge.
I've learned after watching them up to this point, when the Cleveland Browns play lights out, when they're getting guys that get 58 yards, or all these 3 and out 7, 8, 9, 10 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch them, they're dominant when their defensive tackles are dominant. When you look at it, Dalvin Tomlinson had a crazy game from the defensive tackle
2.5
position.
sacks. That's crazy.
Shelby Harris played great yesterday. Jordan Elliott continues to play great. I mean, he's improved his game so much, I don't even recognize him anymore. Like, it's crazy.
Well, it helps when you have much better players around you. I
Right.
mean, he was like being asked to be like the number 1 tackle. Well, he's not a number 1 tackle. Now he's the 3rd or 4th tackle. Okay, and he's picking his spots. They're picking spots for him, and it's working.
When they're disruptive, it's just a problem. Maurice Hurst is playing well.
Yeah.
So we just named 4 defensive tackles that are rotating in, doing their thing. And the crazy part about it is when they start getting penetration and being in the backfield and being disruptive, you almost can't block the ends. You can't block them. Like, there's not you saw Za'Darius Smith get another sack today. That's quietly for the Za'Darius, 2 sacks. 2 weeks, he's starting to get on the board a little bit.
Yeah.
But when their defensive tackles play like that, they can beat anybody.
And you mentioned Shelby Harris, like he hadn't really done much
before
yesterday, and he had his kind of welcome to the Browns moment, because I don't think Maurice Hurst played a ton yesterday for whatever reason. He didn't. He's been playing really well, but he didn't seem to be much of a factor yesterday. But I thought Shelby Harris played great. He showed up. There was a bunch of times where there was pressure on the quarterback or whatever. But I mean, I think we said this last week too, guys. Who's not playing well on the defense?
It's hard to come up with somebody.
Right? I mean, is there anybody?
Yeah. No. Even the guys they bring in, like Rodney McLeod, he seems to make plays.
Yeah.
And Juan Thornhill is sneaky. Juan Thornhill don't be in the stat sheet a lot because, think about it. You got the corners who are making plays in man-to-man.
Yeah.
Defensive lineman is getting after the quarterbacks. We just talked about that. Linebackers are just solid. Juan Thornhill, he's sneaky around the ball a little bit. Like, when it was in the end zone, he almost got him to get to safety.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was a good play. He's really, really solid.
We talked about that last week with him. I've noticed 3, 4, maybe 5, maybe more tackles that he's made where it just looks like a routine tackle. But if he doesn't get that guy down, it's a big play. And Juan has saved a lot of moments where, again, it doesn't look huge in the stats, but watching the game on the field, he's been a game changer. And, we can say what you want about Joe Woods, and we crushed him all last year, and we said that his scheme doesn't fit the personnel, and it wasn't a good match. But how many times do we say, at least I said, fix the defensive tackles, you're going to fix a lot that's wrong with this defense.
Yeah.
And they've done that.
Yeah.
With the upgrade in the defensive tackles, everything else looks so much better.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way, I hate to have given too much credit to Jim Schwartz, but maybe we have. He deserves a lot of credit, but the players deserve a lot of credit
They're
too.
out there on the field making plays.
Joe Woods, by the way, his defense in New Orleans is playing very well.
Yeah.
So let's not make it didn't work for him here for a variety of reasons, some his doing, but let's not make it seem like he's incompetent. I mean, his defense is playing well. Go ahead, Mike.
I do think the talent upgrade is probably vastly underrated in the big picture, but Joe Woods never adjusted to try and put guys in the best position to succeed like we've seen Jim Schwartz do. So I do think he deserved a fair slice and a pretty big slice of the blame pie here.
Absolutely. But it's also fair to say he is succeeding with another team. Right?
And he had succeeded elsewhere, too.
Yes.
So.
And I mean, think about their defensive line for a minute. You had nothing with like Jadeveon Clowney is a talented player, but he was unmotivated last year. Yeah, it was clearly he was not playing. And they had nothing else. Nothing. And now they've got a ton of guys. I can't the talent upgrade that they've had on that defensive line in one off season is ridiculous.
And quiet as kept. Here's why I give them credit. Quiet as kept. We talked about the first 5 weeks. The Browns were taking the ball away. They're tied for 8th now.
They're on a flurry here these last few weeks.
Right. They've gotten, and that's just the way, turnovers happen. Like, you can't really plan for them, and sometimes you don't want to tell guys, hey, we're going to go punch the ball out. No, we want to get them on the ground and figure out what we're doing.
Right.
But all of a sudden now, the Browns are getting turnovers, and going into the, into the last part of this year, and I've always watched it like this. You watch how quarterbacks' numbers start to creep down. I'm seeing quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson throw for 185. Teams are still winning, but if your name is not C.J. Stroud, ain't nobody throwing for 350, 360s. I haven't seen it. It starts to, especially when it gets a little colder, these numbers start to creep down a little bit. Even Patrick Mahomes, what do you have, 200-some yards in Germany?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, so the Browns are putting themselves in position to kind of weather the storm a little bit and kind of lead with their defense. And I like the fact that when we called them out a little bit for the last couple of weeks, right? And, they could have went out there and played around because it was the Cardinals. But they went out there and smashed the Cardinals and held them to 58 yards. So, I love that, and I like that energy going into Baltimore week.
There were only four quarterbacks that had over 270 yards yesterday. C.J. Stroud had 470.
Balling.
Dak Prescott had 374 and a loss. Burrow had 348, and Sam Howell had 325.
Sam Howell, look at that.
Yeah,
he's putting up some numbers. Let me ask you guys this.
Yeah.
In terms of total yards allowed this season, the Browns have actually the top 3 performances this season.
Right.
Number 3 was Week 1 against Cincinnati, where they allowed 154 yards. Number 2 was Week 3 versus Tennessee, where they allowed 94 yards. And then the best was this week when they held Arizona to 58 yards. If you had to compare the two, this game against Arizona versus this game against Tennessee in Week 3.
Yeah.
Based on the opponent, knowing who was at quarterback, the skill positions, all that in context, which defensive performance do you think was more impressive? 94 yards against Tennessee or 58 yards against Arizona?
I think the Tennessee one.
Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like Ryan Tannehill, but he's a professional NFL quarterback.
I mean, Derrick Henry's a legitimate NFL running back.
Derrick Henry's played pretty well against everybody else this year.
Yeah.
And he could. Now, I thought they gave up on him too early in that game, but still.
I don't know. I'm going to say the Bengals.
The only reason I don't say the Bengals is the weather and Burrow's calf.
Right.
So you have to take that into account.
Yeah, you do. But the crazy part about it is you just see, like, it was raining, and it's raining for DBs too. I kept thinking to myself, like, you can't play man-to-man coverage in this, and you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They weren't hurt. So I'm thinking, like, if you make a cut and you slip and fall, that's touchdown in man-to-man coverage. So, I would say probably the Tennessee one, just because of the name brand recognition. I mean, you had DeAndre Hopkins, you had Derrick Henry. They've been known to run the football a lot, and they could have got the screen game off a little bit. But to have them look like that was just crazy.
I would put Cincinnati second and yesterday third in terms of ranking the top 3 just because of the talent that was out there, or lack of talent that was out there.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything we did not hit on the defense before we move on to the offense?
Yeah, one more thing really, really, really quickly. So we talked about Denzel Ward's interception. We talked about Taki and his emergence. We talked about all the guys on the defensive line who have continued to just be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett, once again, had a sack. He's at 9.5, and I'm going to ask this real quick. I didn't even tell you guys beforehand, but Bill Barnwell of ESPN did his midseason awards today.
Yep.
And said Myles Garrett was his defensive player of the year
should be.
through the first half of the season.
Yeah.
We all said before the season started that we thought Myles had that next level he could get to, and this was his best chance with all the talent. We're halfway through. Have you seen Myles Garrett step his game up to that level we had all wanted to? And I know yesterday wasn't the superhuman performance.
No, I think
that
we have.
Indianapolis was, but I just want to ask that question now.
I think he had, like, Myles Garrett had been like a 99 out of 100.
Yeah.
And there was one more little mini level that only a few guys can reach. And I didn't, in my opinion, he hadn't reached that mini level that only the special players can reach. And I think he's reached it this year. I think so.
The way you said that reminds me. I don't know if when I had when the Cavs were in the playoffs against the Pacers that last year that LeBron was here, and he and I went at it in the locker room, and I said, there's a difference in Hall of Fame and greatest of all time, and it's that.
Yes.
I got to make sure it's on camera, and it's that. And you know it when you see it.
That's right.
And we are seeing that this
Yes.
year out of Myles. He's turned games around. He's single-handedly won games. Now, I think we've talked about this in the past. He's gotten off to great starts in September before and then sort of tails off, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
That is correct, yes.
So we're now in November, and he's still playing at this really high level. I mean, he's doing things we've never seen before, jumping over lines and blocking kicks.
Yeah.
He had the scoop on the fumble. He would have got there yesterday.
Yep.
He would have destroyed Tune on a sack earlier. He was held.
Yep.
So his numbers were deflated a little bit by that. But we're seeing him at that level now into November, and we can only assume into December. I think he is hitting that next gear.
Yeah, and let's face it, part of the reason the defensive tackles are they're good and they're better, but he's making it because you can't double team the other guys as much,
Right?
Because he's the thing you're most worried
And
about.
we talked about it when they hired Jim Schwartz.
Yeah.
I said then, I was talking to people in the organization, part of the reason they chose Jim over Brian Flores was Myles. They felt like Schwartz's system would get the most out of Myles, and we're seeing that play out.
Yeah, no doubt.
I will say this. The Defensive Player of the Year award is on the table the next 2 weeks. If you can go into Baltimore and dominate the way you've dominated some of the games this year, you're going to be the Defensive Player of the Year. He has to know that. Baltimore is playing lights out. They destroyed Seattle. Lamar Jackson looks like he's up for another MVP type caliber season. Zay Flowers, some of those guys. Baltimore is hitting on all cylinders. If he can go into Baltimore and disrupt what they're doing, and the Browns can somehow come out here with a victory, and then you got Pittsburgh coming up at home, prime time probably. Looks like an opportunity for a flex game. Everybody watching, you can win the Defensive Player of the Year award in the next 2 weeks.
Ownership was at the Cavs game last night. Did you guys see? Myles went to the game, and
Myles was there,
and the
yeah.
ovation that he got, and the grin,
bonkers, right?
the smile on his face. Guys, I'm telling you, he's motivated, he's engaged, he's happy, and that's huge because there's been other seasons, not in the not so recent past, that by this time it was already rickety and it was already falling off the tracks. But right now, everything's in front of them these next 2 weeks. If they take care of business, it's all right there. No matter what problems they've had up to this point, everything's there for them to win the division or whatever else. So he's engaged, he's happy, he's motivated, and he's playing at a high level, and that is huge for this team and this defense.
And you know what else he is that he often hasn't been this time of the year? Healthy. It seems like every year around the middle of the season he gets some sort of injury.
Yeah.
Obviously last year was a car accident that screwed him up.
Yep.
He's had some injuries, nothing that's like kept him out for long periods of time, but enough injuries that have set him back a little bit. And so far this year, he remains healthy.
He's in a really good space. He's just in a really good space.
Throw that really quickly. Throw that picture up. He was on the bench with Dalvin Tomlinson, Za'Darius Smith. This makes a difference when you work with people that you like, and you have a good rapport with them. You do things off the field. You do things on the field. You hang out with each other. When you see a picture of you guys laughing and joking on the bench, that makes a world of difference right there, man. Mm-hmm. Like people underestimate that. I've been on horrible teams and I've been on good teams, and the good teams I've ever been on, that's the type of atmosphere that you got in the locker room that translates.
And sometimes it has felt like Myles Garrett was. I don't know if this is true or not, Jason. Maybe you would know. And at times it's felt like he's a bit of a loner.
Yeah.
He marches to the tune of his own drum.
He does things his way.
Yeah.
I don't know if loner is the right word. Maybe. I mean, they've had so much turnover
Yeah.
in that locker room and on that side of the ball. Who's been his running mate? Like, who's been here more than a year or two.
I mean, they got a lot of them now. They got got a bunch of dudes up there.
Mike, I just sent you something. Did you have that graphic?
I got. Yeah, we're gonna get up in 1 sec.
Okay. It's just funny. Zach Jackson tweeted it out.
Oh, I saw that yesterday.
Where Myles ranks on lists and top sacks and everything else.
Let me know when you have this, Mike, because I saw this yesterday too.
We're gonna pull up Anthony's phone up as we speak. Listen, Myles Garrett in terms of Browns history is.
But not just Browns history, because I mean, yes,
in terms of in all pass rushing history, you can take the tag board full here.
Yeah,
Steve.
here we go.
But he is, yes.
So
it's just
if you
impressive.
see that, most sacks in the NFL before their 28th birthday. That's what the first one says, right?
He's
correct.
ahead
He
of
turns
everybody.
28
Ahead of Reggie
next
White and
month.
Derek Thomas, obviously two of the
I
all-time
can't believe
greats.
Bruce Smith isn't up there.
That's crazy.
Maybe he got in the league a little later. I don't know. What is the second one? It's a little
Most
hard.
sacks.
Most career sacks by a Brown, and he is
He got
passed Clay
20.
Matthews by 22. And then you can't even see the bottom of the tweet because the tell line's up. But most sacks by a Brown after 8 games is 1 Myles Garrett, 2 Myles Garrett, 3 Myles Garrett, and
4 Myles
you guessed
Garrett.
it, 4 Myles Garrett.
I mean, it's crazy.
If he spends his career here, he's going to set numbers that will last for
They're not getting touched.
ever. And the Browns, within the Browns.
So we call those LeBron numbers. You never
I was thinking that earlier, but I already mentioned LeBron once.
So, yeah.
And I can't mention LeBron more than once a
right.
show.
yeah, I feel like
people make fun
I
of
feel
me.
like 5, 6 years from now, we're going to have a conversation about Joe Thomas versus Myles Garrett, who's the greatest modern Brown of all time.
Yeah,
That's hard.
that'd be
dang,
hard.
Stop. You know what?
I asked that question. You guys were like, it's too early. So.
It's too early. You got to see how the rest of his career goes.
We're going to talk to Deshaun Watson in 1 sec. I'm
Yeah.
going to say something, and we're going to talk about it in overtime. Bo, we cannot go on a tangent here. Jason, we cannot go on a tangent. But the Guardians have hired Stephen Vaught as their new manager. We'll talk about it in overtime. That's official from Paul Hoynesy. It's official. It's not a fake
Are we
account.
sure it's not fake?
Unless Paul Hoynesy is...
Who is that guy?
No, it's
Paul Hoynes.
real.
Okay,
Yeah,
can I
it's
just
real.
say, we're not going to go on a long tangent.
You have literally 30 seconds before we lose
Okay,
viewers
'cause
for
I
talking
gotta-
Guardians. So
let me
you have
just read
literally
this-
30 seconds.
Relax.
All right, we're moving on to Deshaun Watson.
Hold on here. Let me just read
FanDuel
this
is America's
text.
#1 sports
Mike,
book. It is
shut up for 1
unquestioned.
sec.
I'm in the middle of a read, Bo. You can't stop me now. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We will talk plenty of Guardians in overtime, but we got to talk to Deshaun Watson.
Let me
while we
just
have.
read one thing that.
But we're going to lose people. As soon as you say Guardians, we're going to lose people. I'm
So
telling
then,
you.
I don't care. If
We
they're that
do.
Go
We're
ahead,
peak
read it.
Deshaun
I
Watson
want-
time. This
read
is
it.
peak
Read it.
Deshaun Watson
I
time.
want to just. They just broke news. We can talk about it for a minute, and if people go away, they're bad fans. All right?
Yeah. Do it, but you got a minute. Seriously, you got a minute.
Forget it. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Say it.
Forget it.
Say
Let's
it.
talk. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson. Go ahead. I don't.
Are you going to read it?
Go ahead.
I don't
forget
have it. No, the votes manager will talk about it more in
Go
overtime.
ahead. Go talk about Deshaun
We
Watson.
talked about Deshaun off the top, and I said at the open I didn't like the way he played in the first half. I thought he was apprehensive, tentative, wasn't confident in what he was seeing, wasn't really ripping it downfield. The first 2 drives was like, see, told you, shouldn't have played him. There's a mistake. Can't throw it over 5 yards. And then he cut loose and ripped it 59, 60 yards to Amari Cooper. And then he seemed to settle in, had a few better throws in the second half, was able to throw it down the field more. Here's the thing that I wrote, though, after the game, and this is just sort of until we see otherwise. The Browns' offense right now, their bread and butter is sort of what it was in years past. And that's not what it was supposed to be with Deshaun. But because of the injuries, because of now Jed Wills looks like he may be out for a while, because of Deshaun's shoulder, it's the screen game, it's play action, and take a shot on 3rd down. And it's not a sexy way to play, but it's been effective to this point. And with this defense, the way the defense is playing, you're going to have to rely on them to win games. We just spent 20 minutes talking about how terrific this defense has been. So it's sort of like, I covered Jim Tressel when he was at Ohio State, and it was sort of the way that he played with punt and field position, where you get a couple first downs, you punt, you hold them, you get the ball back, you get a first down, you punt, now you've pinned them deep, you get the ball back, now you got the ball at midfield, and now you can get points out of it. So it's sort of stacking, not even plays, but stacking drives on top of each other to where you get to the point where get a key turnover, get on a short field, and get points out of it. But it's not the 5 wide throwing the ball all over the place that we thought you were going to get with Deshaun. It's a lot of run heavy, extra linemen, extra tight ends. Nick Harris is a fullback. Nick Harris is a tight end. Harrison Bryant and Njoku in there, and just run the ball, play action, and take your shots on third down.
I like the fact that they're starting to run the ball more out of shotgun. You're starting to see more delayed draws, different things like that. And look, I said it, last week on the barbershop when we were doing the podcast. I said, look, sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, okay, well, let me look and see what my identity is. And even if we got Deshaun Watson, what's the best way that we could go about winning football games? And if you could get Deshaun Watson to play clean football, he's not going to turn the ball if he doesn't turn the ball over. And if he scrambles to pick up first downs, now you'll start to get people that'll come up a little bit, and he can do the scramble drill. We haven't even seen him do the scramble drill yet this year because he just hasn't been called for. That hasn't been what was in the books, in the plans. So now you can start adding things like RPOs in the game. Now that you see that he can take a hit or a few hits and he's ready to go. But for me, when DPJ, got traded, a lot of people thought that it might be, Cedric Tillman or David Bell. But no, get ready. There's tight ends that are going to be involved, like Harrison Bryant, David Njoku is seeing more. I would say David Njoku is almost the second option for Deshaun Watson. He's almost the second guy he's looking for. And we saw, what's his 84? I forget his name all the time.
Oh, the third tight end, Akins?
We saw Akins. They dusted him off and got him out the closet a little bit.
They didn't even know who it was on the broadcast.
They were shocked he got a target.
I hadn't seen him since training camp. So get ready for a lot of that stuff. And guess what? I wasn't even mad at the Stefanski's gadgets with this stuff. I saw Kareem Hunt in his shotgun. I saw him do a fake reverse. I seen him go with the full house backfield, shifted into it, and I love the Nick Harris stuff at fullback. So, hey, I like it.
Deshaun Watson, it was absolutely the right call. We often kill the Browns organization when they do stupid things. And in their modern history, they've mostly done stupid things. Mm-hmm. It's been a poorly run organization. The decision to start Deshaun Watson yesterday turned out to be the right call. It was the wrong call against Indianapolis because he was not capable of playing. It was the right call yesterday. And listen, who knows? Maybe if he would have played the whole game against Indianapolis, maybe the second half would have been better. But even in the first half when Deshaun Watson I thought was not playing well. And can we not do this again? So when Baker Mayfield was here, and I'm just going to bring this up as comparison, we got to the point where most people had picked their camps. We either liked Baker or you didn't. And if you were in the anti-Baker camp, as I was, but unlike me, most people in the anti-Baker camp never wanted to give Baker credit when he played well, ever. Right. It didn't matter. Conversely, the Baker bros never would admit when he didn't play well, unless it was beyond obvious that he could have. And now we're already starting to see the same things.
Yeah.
The pro Watson people are going to try to argue that he played a great game yesterday. Stop that. He didn't play a great game. He was pretty bad in the first half. He played, and then the anti-Watson people are going to say, "Oh, he had just made one throw in the second half. He wasn't very good." No, listen. He played pretty well in the second half. He is far still from where he needs to be, and where the Browns traded for him not to be a game manager, but to be a game winner, to be a difference maker. Right now, he's not. Either he's not capable, or he's not capable at the moment.
Well, he's not healthy. He said again yesterday he's not 100%. He's not going to be 100% the rest of the year.
Jason, you're on the field. You got to do it.
I agree.
Yes, Burrow's playing better now because he's healthier. I didn't give him a pass for the way he played early in the season.
It's a factor. If you're on the field, you have to perform. But the reality is he is hurt. He's not going to be 100% the rest of the way.
Right. But I thought the way he played in the second half, he cut it loose in the second half.
Yeah, he did.
He made that one throw at the end of the first half, but for the most part, he did not play well in the first half, I thought. Second half, he made a lot of good throws. But I noticed, and Mike and I were talking about this yesterday, can you guys shut up back there? You're making too much noise. We're trying to do a show here. I hear you guys mumbling to each other, so shut the hell up.
No graphics.
Bull's just pouting because he can't talk Guardians.
I can talk about whatever the hell I want, but they were being so annoying and they ruined the whole thing when I want to talk about it for a minute. Instead of saying, we got to go for 30 seconds, and Earl's like in the background, oh my God, we're going to lose people. Oh my God, who cares? They'll be back.
Bull, real quick, do you know what I was telling?
No!
I was telling Earl make a Stephen vote canvas so we can.
We
get
was
to
just
it.
trying to produce
Shut
the
up,
show.
Stewie, I don't want to hear from you.
Hey, go ahead. Get your
anyway.
money off. Get your money off.
Deshaun Watson played well in the second half, and yes, he may not be the best he's going to be at this point. And we don't know if we're ever going to see that guy consistently that we saw in Houston. It may never happen. And if it doesn't, it's a big disappointment. But for this team, right now, this season, they don't need him, at the moment at least, to be superhuman. They need him to be good.
Right.
I thought he was good in the second half.
And we're 40 minutes into the show. I don't think we've mentioned it. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't turn the ball over. That's huge.
Yeah.
So call it game manager, call whatever you
Yeah.
want. Hold on to the football. Don't turn the ball over. Don't put your defense in bad spots in short fields, sudden change situations, and it's going to go a long way toward winning. One more thing, what you said at the start about don't divide into camps, that's done. As long as Deshaun is here, because of his history, because of how he got here, the sides have been drawn, and no one's going to cross over. Either you love him or you hate him, and that's the way it's going to be. It's a shame, but that's the way it's going to be.
I wish Jay was here because I would ask him, has this ever been done on TV before? So I was watching 19 Action News. I was watching the fifth quarter.
You're not allowed to watch them.
I watch all of it.
The answer is yes. I know where you're going with this, and yes.
I mean,
you know the live tweet ticker?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fatal flaw in the system, but it happens every week.
They had the ticker on, and the ticker was like he's sitting there. The Browns, it said in the top it says Browns win 27-0. He's smiling, and at the bottom there's guys tweeting, just trolling like he's still hurt. Get him out of here. He's terrible. We should have never gave up the picks. He's great. Like it was like every single comment, and I'm like, is this supposed to happen or was this like a thing? Because I haven't seen anything like that. I don't see that on like WKYC or Fox 8, none of that. I'm like, dang, this is crazy. And it just shows you that there are two camps, bro. Like, these people are not, I mean, it almost seems like they didn't even watch the game. You would have swore up and down and said the Cardinals won 27-0.
Well, I did see something this morning about, I forget where I saw it, but like, let me get this straight. A year later, Houston already has a better quarterback than Cleveland.
Yeah, you're right.
That's like, well,
so yeah, I saw.
Let's not talk about that right
So he was getting killed for three things. They was like, Baker's about to bring him back. Look, listen.
Baker did bring him back.
He brought him back.
And then C.J. Stroud brought them back.
And then C.J. Stroud brought him back. And then they both used those against Deshaun Watson at the same time. Baker brought him back and C.J. threw for 450. They're both winning and we suck. I was like, dang,
and right now, you'd rather have C.J. Stroud than both of those guys.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, but yeah, I'm with Jason. At this point, it's almost like, we go out, you try to, it's like voting now. Like, everybody knows who they're gonna vote for. No one's flipping. I could come to you with all the information in the world. You're gonna say, I ain't doing that. It's the same thing with Deshaun Watson. It's already baked in the cake. The only way it turns around is if he wins the Super Bowl.
Well, he's got to play great. If he plays great and leads them to deep into the playoffs, then it'll come. I'm sure when all the controversy with Ben Roethlisberger started in Pittsburgh, I'm sure there were plenty of Pittsburgh fans who were like, I don't like this guy. I don't want him here. And then he won games, and most people forgot about it.
We don't need to go down this rabbit hole, but it's different there because he was drafted there. He had a long track record there before any of that came up. Deshaun came here under this pretense or under this cloud.
We don't like.
That's why
Cleveland fans, for better or worse, do not like outsiders. If you were brought here in a trade, if you were brought here in free agency, you don't get the same leeway as the guys they traded that we drafted here.
That's true.
In some instances, people like shows you this is really good quality. I dropped it.
Don't talk about that.
I dropped it.
People are going to go off the show. Don't talk about the bottle.
That's the Kool-Aid Mafia. We can talk about that. But look, even Johnny Manziel admitted he did not care, did not like his teammates, didn't look at his book all year, and he didn't get killed like this. He didn't get destroyed like this. I'm like,
oh, he was getting killed. Killed.
By the end.
By the end.
By the end.
But there were people that was like, nah, that's just Johnny being Johnny.
Yeah. Well, Deshaun hasn't played well enough in his time in Cleveland to this point.
Yeah.
So some of the criticism is fair.
Some will convert.
And if he plays better, come around. But the bottom line is, overall for the game, I'd give him either a C+ or a B-.
I'm right there with you.
Right?
C+. I give him a C+.
G, what are you giving him for the game?
I'm going to go, because I seen a couple throws, I'm going to give him B-. 2.7.
That throw to Amari Cooper in the second half, that long throw
stupid.
that set up the last touchdown. Was it the last touchdown? Yeah, I think it
That was, yeah.
That was as good a throw as you can make.
Yeah. Yep. It was.
that
Was that his
perfect.
best throw of the game?
What's that?
Was that his best throw of the game? The one.
No, there's one. There's this
I
one.
thought that was the best
There's
throw.
the one Jake Burns has where he fits this ball in this window, like it was to Amari Cooper.
Ty
too.
has said that's getting picked against a better defense. That one's getting picked.
Well, hey, he must have knew he wasn't a better defense. he fit it in there. I'm gonna give him credit for it.
But he had enough. It was only a handful, but he had enough in there that lets you know, okay,
Right.
it's there. It's there
Right.
when you need it. I don't know if you want him. I don't know if he's capable of doing that 15, 20 times
No.
a game. But when you got to have it, it's there.
The bottom line is Deshaun, at whatever percent he's playing at right now, is way better than P.J. Walker.
Oh, Lord.
I mean,
Yes.
Well,
you know,
like,
yes.
yeah, like you're.
I mean, they would have won with P.J. Walker probably.
Yes, they
but they
would've.
wouldn't have. They wouldn't have won. You know, they wouldn't have scored as many points probably. Who knows? I mean, Arizona's the worst team in football. So or
Now they
Carolina.
And we don't hit. By the way, we don't hit deep balls. I could name on my hand 10 players or 10 players that hit deep balls ever in Cleveland. We're not just dropping back, throwing bombs on people. That don't happen.
They missed
One
a good
thing
on good
real
one.
quick, and then we will
Yeah.
we'll move on here. Steve, you take tag word full. Here's his passing chart from yesterday. And Next Gen Stats does a good job putting this out. They attempted 4 deep balls, which is something we had not seen really at all
2
in the
of 4.
Browns offense. There was a ton of stuff short to the right. His ADOT wasn't great. His completion percentage over expected wasn't great. But overall, 19 of 30 for 219 and 2 scores you will take in his first game back. I thought when his feet were set, he was
Yeah.
able to throw the ball. Anything kind of off platform was still a little shaky, but as a start, as a first time back in essentially 6 weeks, that was pretty damn impressive.
It was a step in the right direction, if nothing else. It was a step in the right direction, and I think Mike made a good point. We were talking about this off the air yesterday.
Mike's not allowed to make a good point. You're mad at him.
I'm not mad at him anymore. I'm over it. I was mad at both of them in the moment. I'm over it. But when he was on the run and trying to throw, it
Yeah.
looked ugly.
Yeah.
When he was in the pocket and was able to set and use his body properly, had the mechanics right, he was making good throws. Right now, on the run is where
Well, he's normally pretty
yeah.
good on the run, so he's
Right.
got to figure that part out.
Yeah.
And there were moments, again, where there's like a fine line. What he's really good at is holding on to the ball and letting plays develop. But at the same time, when you're Pete with Walker, now Walker's not good, but he was getting the ball out fast. And now the linemen, I think, have to adjust back to holding the blocks a little bit longer without getting
Yeah.
called for without a holding call.
Yeah.
And giving him the opportunity to let things develop. It's an adjustment period for all these guys.
Doesn't it feel? I feel like this is the last month. The Browns have gotten more calls in their favor than ever. I feel like.
Thank you. I've been complaining for 12 years.
Yeah, it feels like they've gotten
came
every
around.
call,
Yeah.
almost every call in there. Any close call has gone in their favor for the last month.
And one more thing about Deshaun, I think we talked about before the show. He needs to practice. He just
Yeah.
needs the practice
Yeah,
reps.
yeah.
He hasn't had full weeks of practice because of this. He needs the full reps on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, both for the shoulder, for the confidence, for the familiarity, for the comfortability. And maybe we'll see him be able to disperse the ball more than just Amari Cooper and Njoku and get other guys involved. He just hasn't had the practice reps. He needs to practice before you get to the games.
Does anything translate that you think could carry over to Baltimore?
From yesterday,
Yeah.
those couple of throws, it's in there. It's in there. It's in the bag if he's got to get it. If he needs to rip one down the field, he has the strength to do it. So, that should translate, and that hopefully would get better with more time, with more reps, more practice, and more rest.
Yeah. In terms of the wide receivers, do you want to do a read before the wide receivers, Mike? Or
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
Tonight, or this afternoon at 3 o'clock, the barbershop, G. Bush, back in action, in the chair. He was off last Monday. Recovering this Monday, he is back. And if you need to hear anything from a perspective you don't always get. G. Bush had a video this weekend comparing Kevin Stefanski to Kim Kardashian, something I never thought would be spoken into existence, and G. Bush made a compelling point as to why Kevin Stefanski can learn something
If
from
we
Kim
give,
Kardashian. And you can find all those kind of takes in the barbershop tonight at 3 o'clock.
I got something to announce. Right now, our likes is trash. Likes is 268. Listen, if we get over 1,000 likes in this show, I'm giving away 2 Kool-Aid Mafia hoodies today at 3 o'clock. I'm giving 2 by week. I can't give nothing away if we at 248. I need to see over 1,000.
Let's go.
We get these thousands. We get that. And by the way, we got the orange Kool-Aid Mafia joints, right? We giving the alternate orange crushes away, limited edition. So if you want them hoodies, hit that like button, get an opportunity. I'm giving away 2 at 3 o'clock.
And also a promise from me to everyone out there. We're going to talk Lil Steven vote before overtime as well. We're going to do that and then in overtime, but I promise
Nobody
we will
wants
get
to
it
hear
in.
from you right now.
We will get it in. Let's talk about Amari Cooper, though, guys. He had a phenomenal game yesterday. Him and Njoku were really the only 2 options in the passing attack, and it doesn't really matter who's at quarterback for the Browns. Amari Cooper seems to find ways to put up numbers week in and week out, G.
Hey, listen, Amari Cooper, 5 for 139, I believe. The fact that this is why I like this, man, and you could probably set this up a little bit too. And shout out to Aditi. They listen. They let Aditi get all her money off. It was 27-0. She kept turning her mic on. She was like, "Yeah, bring it down to me. I got it."
I
know this market.
I'm not just saying this because she's a friend.
Right.
She's
She's
much
awesome.
better than almost every. I find most sideline reporters useless and annoying. She and what's his name, Evan Washburn are far and away the 2 best.
Aditi's got a journalist background. That's why.
Yeah,
I'm like,
she's
man,
really good.
she come in telling all these little tidbit stories and stuff. I said, okay, I see you. Now, Amari Cooper, I love the fact that now we at a level where you got a receiver that has enough cachet that can come up to a quarterback and do it in the right way and say, hey, listen, this is how they doing. He did it in his exact same tone. Hey, Deshaun, I'm open over here. The safeties are playing me wrong. And I think we can get something together. Listen, and then the fact that Deshaun Watson can say cool, and they go out and draw it up in the dirt almost and go up top and complete it, that's what I've been waiting for years.
I think that's the throw I think that was the one.
This is the play that they're talking about.
Yeah, so Amari went up to Deshaun and said the way that the corner was playing outside leverage on him and the way that the safety was almost charging at him, he knew he could beat it. And so they just sort of drew that up on the fly, and Deshaun hit him in stride with his best throw. That's probably his best throw of the day, right there.
Yes, sir.
And it was a play that they just sort of whipped up together, just the 2 of them, which is kind of cool to see.
It's definitely cool to see because that's when you got elite. We've seen the Montanas and Rices do that. We've seen, all the top names, the combos do that. Go out there and you just draw something up and you got enough chemistry to not only complete it, but you got enough heart to say this is what we're going to do and go off script. So I love the fact that he's doing that. And Amari Cooper, for me, he's one of the guys that I will say that came from the outside. But we love Amari Cooper, right? Yeah. Like, he's one of them dudes that we feel like he is from here. He is of us. And a lot of people want to talk about, like, his number and his cap number. I'm like, man, look.
Well, he ain't going nowhere. You can't get rid
Look
of
at
him.
the rest of that list.
They had nobody else that can do anything in the passing game. By the way, bizarre stat on Amari Cooper through 8 games. He has not had a game this year where his receiving yards have been between 38 and 88 yards. Not one game between 30. Like, you figure, most games are somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
He's not had any games between 38 and 88 yards. He's had 3 games where he's had under 38 yards, 8 for 22 against the Colts, 6 for 16 against the Ravens, and 7 for 37 against the Bengals. And then every other game, he's been 89 yards or more. 89, 90, 108, 116, 139. He's on pace for his best season ever in terms of yardage. He's had 6, I believe, 1,000-yard seasons.
Now think about that.
He's never had over 1,200. He's on pace for over 1,300.
With the trash quarterback play the Browns have had.
The Browns have gotten crappy quarterback play in 6 of 8 games, average play in one and good play in one. That's it.
And this man, and the most impressive thing is this man is doing it all in lineman cleats. This man, somebody get Amari Cooper together. That man has the same cleats as DeJuan Jones. He had the high top joints with the rubbers. I'm like, dang, Amari, you don't got nothing that signifies you a baller. No gloves,
He's like
no shield.
I feel like he's like the least diva,
He is.
top 25 wide receiver.
We talked about that before. Nick Chubb and
Yeah.
Amari Cooper are two of the most low-key,
Yeah.
don't need the spotlight, don't care, just go out and perform guys you could have as leaders on an offense.
Can you imagine going out? Can you imagine going to their house for a gathering and it's him, Nick Chubb, and Amari Cooper just hanging out? I think they write notes to each other.
Nobody say a word.
No one's saying a word, bro. I really enjoyed our time today,
Yeah.
Nick.
And even though Myles Garrett is an oddball in a way like they are, but he's different. He likes the attention.
He likes to,
Yeah.
he likes it.
Yeah. Listen, they're not hanging out.
And that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm just saying it. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead, Mike.
So outside of Cooper, and Njoku had another touchdown, his second straight game with a touchdown. But other than him, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman did have a catch, one, but he did have a catch.
Yep. He got that
No one else really
late.
did anything.
Got it
no one
late.
really did nothing in the passing game, and that's a testament to how good Cooper was. But long term here, G, and we'll focus a little more on this as the week goes on, and Jason as the week goes on. But when is it time to start having an ounce of concern that this passing game is going to get too predictable if it's always going to Amari and David? If ever, you could say
I got no
it's not an
concerns
issue.
about that.
Here's the thing. Leroy says something, and I like what he says when it comes to this and his mindset on plays and play calling. The best teams in the world, you know what they're running. You know what the tendencies are. You know what the down the distance and where on the field they like to call certain plays. They ain't got nothing to do with you stopping it. I can know you about to run the football, but can I get off a block and disengage from a monster on the other side of me? And for the Browns, I look at it this way. The Browns have enough, what shall I say, creativity, because you can have creativity and just run the ball or throw the ball from different places, right? You can't dictate. They're very creative in the screen game. They play three different running backs that all have different styles of running and where they like to get downhill. Amari Cooper is not just a guy that's just going to run straight past you. It's the fact that he can set you up off the line of scrimmage, off press man coverage. He can do outside stems. He's explosive at the top of his routes, and he's shown he got enough speed to get behind you. So no, I'm not concerned about that. Because the Cleveland Browns, they're predicated on a strong running game, a dominant running game, and being opportunistic in the passing game. And then pairing that with a defense.
They don't have a strong running game.
I disagree with that.
No, I'm with Bull. I think it's very average, it's below average with the running backs. If you look at the numbers, we talked about this last week. If you look at the numbers since Nick went out by the running backs, I think they're 28th, 29th in the league in yards per carry.
What are they in rushing yards?
Well, in totality, they rank third or fourth.
We use the word totality too much on this show.
Okay, so
they're find a new word.
So here's the
Stop
thing.
Overall, rushing yards per game, Baltimore is first, Miami second, Cleveland is third.
So they're third in rushing.
If you run, what are they yards per attempt?
You don't want to know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Sometimes, and this is why I give him credit. When you are playing a team, it's the simple fact that they still are going to consistently
I hear
run.
you. That doesn't make you a good. Just because you run it a lot doesn't make you a good running team.
Cleveland's back. I just looked this up yesterday. They're 3.7 yards a carry since Nick went down, 25th in the league. And the offense, yards per play, is 29th in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's everything.
That's not you can't. That's going to have to improve significantly.
Well, if you give me one characteristic or one thing that I would take and not like about the game yesterday is they gave Jerome Ford 20 carries. Now Jerome Ford running outside zone.
He's not a feature back.
Let's stand by 1 second. We can get more into the running game first. Go ahead, Mike.
We do got to get our real quick FanDuel read in before we hit into the noon hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. If you're looking for the number one sportsbook in America, it is FanDuel. It's unquestionable. It is undeniable. It is FanDuel, the best sportsbook in all the land. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is easy to use. They have spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more, along with another wide range of varieties for options and betting. Things that you want to make some money on, you can find it on FanDuel.com. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Bull?
The Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford, between them, are averaging 3.7 yards per carry. That's pretty bad.
Now, Kareem Hunt is the goal line back, so he's usually in on short yards. So for me, I'm going with Kareem Hunt, short yardage, and goal line. Pierre Strong is the best back on this team. It's not even close. When you watch them run inside zone, he's more decisive. His landmarks are more accurate. He gets upfield, and he puts his shoulder pads down, and he leans forward. I watched Jerome Ford running on outside zone plays, and if you think you're going to run outside zone plays and you're going to stretch Pittsburgh or Baltimore out sideline to sideline, they're too fast. Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, the safeties come up and play the run very well. They play their safety as a third linebacker. Mm-hmm. So you need to get the ball and get upfield. And I think the
run
fact
right at him.
And all the sideline to sideline stuff not going to work. And I think what Stefanski was doing is he wanted to see if Kareem Hunt, as to Jason's point, is Jerome Ford a feature back?
No.
And those 20 carries showed you he's not a feature back.
He hasn't shown it all year. He's got the home run ability. He's hit a couple of big, long runs. But in terms of the guy you want to hand the ball to on first and second down every play?
I'd love to know, is Ford a much better pass blocker? Like, what's the deal you finally gave Pierre Strong some opportunity. Yeah. I thought he really impressed. And then they gave him 3 touches yesterday. I don't know what happened.
Well, Jerome Ford, he said, Jerome Ford has shown home run ability. And home run ability is intoxicating when you have an offense that struggles a little bit. Because you think, hey, if I keep giving it to him, this guy has an ability to go to take the distance, and get points on the board now instead of field goals. Right. I get where you're coming from. But as you said, on first and second down, you need to get guys that going to give you 4, 5 yards and then put you in that good position and use them. They want to use Jerome Ford as a third down guy or a guy that you want to run on screens and different things like that. Sure. But I think it needs to be a split, and he doesn't need to be seeing 20 carries.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown nothing to me that makes me think I want to make him a lead back.
Yeah, it's disappointing. He's been a disappointment.
Yeah.
Because I really thought he was going to be the guy that they transitioned to next year. I never thought Nick was coming back even before the new year. If he did, it was on a much lower deal. I'll be curious to see. I mean, we can talk about this more, after the season, but what they do at that spot going into next year.
It's fascinating, Jason, because I, like you, assume Nick Chubb, sadly, because I love Nick Chubb, was going to be gone next year. You wonder if because of the knee injury, and maybe he wouldn't be, he's an older back at this point, and he's coming off a knee injury. It's not like somebody's
2 of them now. He's had 2.
It's not like another team's throwing him big money. I think there's almost a better chance that Nick Chubb, if he's healthy,
you might be right,
could come back, because if he's not going to get a ton of money anyway, why wouldn't he stay here?
If they could get him at the right number, I'm sure they'd love to bring him back. The whole point that I was trying to make all summer was he wasn't coming back at that number.
No chance.
And they showed their hand when they didn't restructure his deal. That told you that he wasn't coming back at that number.
Right.
That they were probably going to move on from him. But now, maybe now there's a conversation you can have there.
Right.
But you still have to do something, and maybe if he comes back, you don't have to do it. But there's going to come a point where I was watching Trevion Henderson run on Saturday thinking, he looked pretty good in a Browns jersey next year if he lasted the second round.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I haven't looked at.
Hopefully it'll be late second round.
I mean, but that's where running back's sweet spot seems to be now in the NFL draft is second rounds.
That's true. So I do love that despite the fact the running game has not been great, that Stefanski does stick with it. Like he didn't have a choice.
Look who's quarterbacks in.
Right. Well, yeah. And they, the running. I'd love to know what do we have the running back efficiency numbers? and some of the analytics on that. I'd like to know. I'd love
As
to
far
know
as like
where
their
the
EPA
Browns
per
are.
carry and their success rate.
What's that?
As far as like their EPA per carry and
Yeah,
success
like
rate,
where-
it'll be updated after Monday
Okay.
Night Football. So nothing.
And we get to talk about this a little bit. So yeah, we would be amiss if we didn't talk about Jedrick Wills' injury. He left the field with the air cast brace on his,
He's
his
probably
right
done for
leg.
the year, I'm guessing.
And anytime I've been in that position multiple times, anytime you're on that cart, it's tough to deal with because you understand what's ahead of you. Obviously, he was emotional. We talked about his struggles on this show before, but we also talked about he has been playing better as of late in the past few weeks.
I didn't think he was playing particularly well yesterday.
Well, that was before today.
Yeah.
Well, he went down a couple times.
Yeah,
he would like
Both tackles.
give him credit.
Yeah.
He was trying
He
to
came
fight
back.
through. We've been hard on him, especially early in the year, those first couple of games.
Yeah.
But he was dealing with some stuff, and he kept getting up and he kept trying to fight through it.
Yeah.
Until finally, obviously,
Right.
when he leaves in an air cast.
So
He's not coming back anytime soon. It
No.
could be a season. We'll get more
I
information.
wonder
on that.
if they consider moving DeJuan Jones to left tackle.
I
Is
don't
that
think so.
Probably not.
I don't think so.
What about Batonio to tackle and Michael Dunn to
And
guard?
then you
They
just
tried that
weaken-
Not
before.
midseason. Dunn's on IR, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Dunn's on
I
IR.
thought.
Yeah,
So
he is.
we talk about that running game. Believe it or not, Hudson is a drop off from Jet Wills in the run game.
Oh, yeah.
So I want people to understand that before they go in and be like, well, I thought you said that Wills was terrible. And no, we never advocated for Hudson coming in all the minutes. He is a drop off in terms of the physicality and being
I guess
able
we'll see. It's tough that he's got to go in and get play Baltimore and Pittsburgh in the
Yep.
next 2 weeks.
And we know Hudson's struggles with Pittsburgh a couple of years ago. Now that was on the
I
right
don't know.
side.
For whatever reason, I'm not that worried about it.
I would say
I
careful
don't
what you
think
wish
Jed
for.
Wills is any good. So
Careful what you wish for.
I wasn't wishing for Hudson to play either. I was wishing they'd go out and get a tackle, which
Yeah.
they didn't.
Well,
And
when we have more information on what Will's injuries, I'm sure Stefanski
Yeah.
will address it.
But
today when
obviously
he
you feel
speaks to
bad for the guy.
Yeah, we'll do a full segment
absolutely.
tomorrow on how they address the offensive line,
Yeah.
depending
He
on
should
how
be
long.
talking
he'll
I
be
mean,
on
how
the
are they going
show.
to address it? There's nothing to do. You
There's
gotta
nothing
stick
to
with
do.
what guys,
There's
Yeah.
trade deadline is
you go
passed.
sign some journeymen off the street, which
I mean,
who
they've
knows?
got Leatherwood
Jason
on the
Peters is
practice
out there.
squad. Jason Peters is older than me. Like
No, Jason Peters not out there. He just played
just
for.
played
They cut him. No, he's back on.
Oh, they cut
Because
him?
the guy that he got activated for is now healthy again. So,
they
then
cut
he got
him.
he-
dropped
I mean,
down.
he's
back.
literally what is he? 37.
Remember Myles
He's
Garrett?
41.
Oh, see, I was joking.
41
He's 6 years younger than me.
41 playing line. That's
That's
great.
crazy.
Yeah.
He
Now I
was born
will
in
say,
80, yeah, he's 41. He was born in 82.
well, what they're going to do a lot is this. You're going to see a lot of Nick Harris this week. They're going to put him at tight end. They're
Yeah.
going to put him at fullback. They're going to run some unbalanced line,
Yeah.
and he'll be like the tight end companion that will be blocking right next to Hudson and trying to block guys up. That's what
How
we'll see.
bad is Alex Leatherwood? The guy was a first-round pick, can't even get off the practice squad.
Can't even get up. Yeah.
I mean, that's all. I mean,
He might be now.
He
We'll
might be,
see.
look, right?
They're running out of bodies up front.
yeah, that's
It's
true.
a concern.
One other thing we didn't really mention, David Njoku mentioned quickly in the conversation of they don't. I just wanted to get back to that a little bit. I mean, I think it is what it is at the other wide receiver spots. I'm not going to trust. I'm not. I have no expectation for any of the other guys.
There's going to come a time where someone else is going to have to win them a game because if you're a defense, why would go back to the Bill Belichick of I'm going to take
Yeah.
out your best player? Well, Amari Cooper is the best player on offense right now.
Yeah, by a lot. Now,
So-
David Njoku stepped up. He has stepped up his game the last
But
month, I'd say.
Amari should be doubled on every snap.
Yep.
Oh, 100%.
And so eventually, and we saw David Bell come up with a big catch, come out of nowhere, and it was one
Yeah.
play, but it's a huge catch in the moment.
Right.
And somebody else, whether it's Elijah Moore, who's been a massive disappointment this year,
Oh,
massive.
my God.
I just
Again, some of that the quarterback play.
Some of that the quarterback,
I
play,
thought he
but
was-
he's had the ball in his hands. He didn't do anything
No.
with it.
I thought he was. They sold me on this explosiveness.
No.
He's running like he got a refrigerator on his back.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, man, pick it up, you small guy.
Marquise Goodwin, nothing official, but that looked like a concussion to me.
Yeah.
He needed help getting off the field.
And it was multiple guys helping him.
Yeah. So I would say he's out for at least the next few weeks. But somebody else is going to have to emerge. I mean, you can't worry about it right now. It's the only thing that's working, so you got to go to it. But if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'd double two. I'm bracketing
not worried
him
about
on
any of
every
the other
snap.
guys.
Every snap. He's
I don't
getting
know why
doubled.
you would ever leave.
I mean, they
Mark
just doubled him there, and they still beat it. But it was the way that the Cardinals played the
But
double that
remember,
Amari knew he could
next
beat
2
it.
weeks you're playing against teams that know how to scheme defensively.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a challenge. And they're not going to, Amari Cooper's not going to be running free on any kind of regular basis. They got, some of these other guys are going to, listen, they need some contributions from whether it's Bell or Tillman.
Yeah.
Tillman finally got off the inactive list. He didn't do anything yesterday.
It's good to see Tillman on the field, but it was because it's not like he forced his way in. It was because they traded DPJ. And they didn't trade DPJ to create a spot for Tillman. They traded him to get something for the asset because they weren't bringing him back. So you'd like to see Tillman do something to force himself onto the field.
That's right. All right.
I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind real quick. Did you know Cedric Tillman played 74% of snaps yesterday?
That's no.
Wow.
He played 54 snaps. In comparison, Amari Cooper played 58. Offensive snaps, not special teams. Offensive snaps.
How many of those snaps were passing plays? Do you know?
No, they just released
I don't know the breakdown.
counts. They just put snap
I
counts.
know, but I'd be curious, if he's a guy that they always have out in the running game because maybe he's a decent blocker outside. But still, I would not have guessed that he was on the.
Usually, rookie receivers are not good blockers.
I'm just.
He played 54 snaps. Bowl. Elijah Moore played 45. So
yeah, it wasn't like Elijah Moore did anything either.
No,
I'm just saying that's.
You wouldn't
Zach
have guessed
tweeted
that.
it out.
At least we retired the Elijah Moore gadget plays from the backfield.
Oh
and
yeah, those are
and
gone.
all that.
Those are gone. We gave all his carries. We cash apped him right to Goodwin. We cash apped him. Bye. Yeah, those don't work. And my thing is, if he's not running that route, what is he running? Because here's the thing: I want more length outside. In terms of if running those outside routes, there's a couple times in the Pittsburgh game where he just didn't have the wingspan or catch radius to catch the football. And plus, when you throwing it to smaller guys, there's less room for air. Like, you can't throw high. You can't really throw. If you throw it low, there's a chance you could skip the football. You really can't put it in a way where they could go up and get jump balls. So it's like, I don't know what other routes he's going to run.
Can I nitpick one thing?
Yeah.
Real quick. Zach is actually the one that noticed this. When they were running some of those Wildcat yesterday and Deshaun flanked wide, if you want to run wild, just get him off the field. Get Deshaun off the field because they're lining up across the corner, and Zach's like, the corner could just bust him right at the line. It's a free shot on a guy with a bad shoulder who's your franchise. Why even have him out there? Yeah. And I thought, man, that's a great point. Just
that's good.
DTR.
Yeah.
I know the reason why. Because when you're in the huddle before you break, you don't know it's Wildcat. If they take the quarterback out the huddle, you have 11
all right,
players,
that's fair. And to Deshaun's credit, he didn't move. Like we watched him, and he didn't even take a step. He just stood there the whole time. But still, it's a free shot on the corner. The corner can take a free. If you're playing press coverage, you can come up and hit him as hard as you want.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a big fan of the Wildcat in general.
Maybe they throw it to him. He stands there for like 6 more times, set him up. Deshaun's not going to move, and then they throw it to him.
I don't want to do that right now.
They tried that with Baker in the bad shoulder. Remember? I think it was Minnesota where they threw a pass to
I remember.
You got to read?
We do. We have our final FanDuel read of the day. Then we're going to talk a little Stefanski, a little special teams, and then a little Steven Vaught here. But score early this NFL season, Major League Baseball season, NBA season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season, the Major League Baseball season, the NBA season, and hockey season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL and an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
All right, let's get to Kevin Stefanski. I mean, there's always a lot of talk about the coach after every game. When the Browns lose, a lot of people want him fired every game. And to be fair to our fans, that happens in probably every other market as well, unless it's a team that consistently wins. And even then, I've heard people say crazy stuff in New York. People wanted to move on from Mariano Rivera. I mean, all kinds of nutty stuff. But there's really... I mean, you gave the one nitpick there if you want, but there's really nothing you could say about Kevin Stefanski. The bottom line is the Browns, through the halfway point of the season, have had the worst quarterback play in the league, and they're 5-3. I mean, what else can I say?
Yeah. I actually thought last week's game was better than this. I thought last week's game, I know 3rd and 3 at the end, whatever.
Yeah.
But for the totality of the game.
That's what your totalities.
I thought
Yep.
his plan against Seattle and his game calls against Seattle was his best of the season. But yesterday, I mean, to handle Deshaun the way he did, to ease him back in, the short throws early, let him build a little bit of rhythm and confidence. Then he ripped the one on the third possession and really started it to roll a little bit more in the second half. I think Kevin's hitting a stride as a play caller. I know everyone thinks, Bull, that you and I are the apologists of Kevin.
Right.
No, it's not the case. We've been critical of him
plenty of times
when we thought it was warranted. But I think he's really starting to hit his stride. And the longer you do something, the better you get at it. And the Browns have just never had a coach, unfortunately, who has now in year 4. But you learn what works and what doesn't. You learn your own tendencies. You learn about yourself, where your weaknesses are, where your blind spots are. And I think he's in a really good spot right now as coach.
What is his initial contract? Was 5 years?
I'd have to go back
remember?
and look. I don't remember.
It could have been more than that.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
It's going to be interesting. You know, we've talked a lot over the years. Fire him. I don't want to get into a conversation about it now. G may lose his mind here, although you can't. You know, you're not hating Stefanski today. You're loving him today because he did a good job. But
it was 5 years.
It was 5 years. Thank you. But what I would say is, let's say the next couple. Let's say they even split against Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and they're 6-4.
I think that's the most realistic.
Right. Let's say they do that, 6-4. We may not talk about firing Kevin Stefanski. We may need to start having a conversation about extending Kevin.
Well, that's going to come up at the end of the year because it's when you have a year left on your deal is when you start having the lame duck conversation and you extend a guy or not.
Yeah.
So that's going to come up after the season for sure. If he's still here, we got a long way to go. But if we get to January and he's still here, that's going to be a discussion point.
I'm just thinking, G, and I don't know if you want to go there yet, but like I have been covering the Browns professionally since 2011, right? So this is for me my 13th season covering the Browns in Cleveland media, and I don't think I've ever once done a topic. Should the Browns extend their coach?
Yeah,
I don't think I've done that in 13 years that I can recall.
I think the only time I remember hearing that was during the Brian Hoyer situation. When Mike Pettin was here, they were 7-4. They went down to Cincinnati, beat Cincinnati badly in prime time, and they're just like the Browns were in first place, the latest that they have been in years. And I think people were just like, oh, like extend him, like let's get this done. And
I don't know. I don't think I was at that point, but I want to see more. But
like it was.
I did say the Browns were going to make the playoffs when they went. I remember when they beat the Bengals. I was like, Browns are going to the playoffs.
Everybody.
Listen,
and they lost 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Then they started playing Johnny,
and it all went to hell.
Then Gordon came back, and then the wheels fell off in the Atlanta game, and it was just downhill. Yeah. But I'll say this: I was talking about this on the barbershop a couple weeks ago. I said, look, there's 2 ways this thing can go. You could get to a point, and I say 6 games, right? And he was, what were we after 6 games? What was it? We was 4-3?
4-2.
We were 4-2. 4-2 after 6 games. So and that was without the quarterback. So, when you get past that and you get to the end of the season, you do have an opportunity to say, look, I mean, I went through the gauntlet right here. Like I had a quarterback. I missed my best player, Nick Chubb. I've lost my left tackle. I've lost my right tackle.
Yep.
What else do you want? And he's now in a position where, they could offer him an extension. Because here's the thing. I don't want anybody to get this twisted. I understand very well what it means if you say he's fired. I get it. That's start over. No matter what guys want to say, that's a start over, bro. Because every new additional coach that comes in here, he wants his own quarterback. He wants his own scheme. He wants his system.
Well, he ain't getting a new quarterback. That quarterback is here.
Well, see, that's the thing. And then how many people want to deal with that?
Yeah.
How many good coaches want that to be that on their resume? They don't. So here's the thing. I don't want to have the repercussions of saying that this whole culmination of what we went through over the last 5 to 6 years is going to end in him getting fired, because that means everything we did to be 1-31 with Sashi Brown and all that other stuff, tear it down to the stubs. We telling ourselves that didn't work. and it was all for naught. I ain't trying to do that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of long-term conversations off of that.
This is his best season. I think this is better than 2020 and the 11-5 because
agree.
we've talked about it before. I've had players tell me multiple times, over and over and over, there was nobody in the building in 2020. It was just us. It was football all the time. There was no nonsense. There was no typical Browns crap going on.
Right.
It was football, football, football. And for him to navigate this with the Deshaun injury, with the injuries, G, that you mentioned, you've lost both tackles and Nick Chubb, and your shoulders quarterback was hamburger helper for half the season. And you still have them in position to make the playoffs. You still have them at 5-3. A lot of the help, obviously, defensively. You're relying heavily on the defense, and that's
but
fine.
you're still having to deal with Jimmy Haslam, too. Who's a
Absolutely.
pain in the butt.
And if he, I'll say this. Look, I'm honest, bro. You can say what you want, Duke and D-Jerk. I don't know. I think they're building a new UCSS.
What is happening?
This is crazy.
That sounds like someone's drilling.
Somebody's
an
like
oil
trying to drill
field
into the
above us.
studio right now.
If somebody falls through the ceiling,
Yeah.
So I'll say this: if the Browns win the division, he's going to win Coach of the Year again.
well, he's getting an extension for sure.
Think about it.
Yeah.
If he wins the division against a
He
Baltimore
wins
team,
the division. Yeah.
He's in the running. He's for
because
sure in the
look,
running.
look at the division. Everybody
Every
is
team.
2 games over 500.
Every team would make the playoffs if the
Right
playoffs
now.
started
That's
today.
crazy.
Although
Yeah.
if the Jets win tonight, they hop ahead of the Bengals for now.
And the Bills are out
Bills
right
are
as
out,
of
yeah.
now.
Wow.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I just asked the chat a question, and before I tell you the answers to today's results, I'm gonna ask the same question to you guys, and I want you to predict what the chat would have said last week. So based on this conversation, I put in the chat, what's a more likely outcome at the end of this season? Fire Stefanski or extend Stefanski? Before I tell you today's results, what do you think the poll results would have been? We have 300 answers in the chat already. If we had asked this exact same question 1 week ago today,
I
following
think
that third and
it
three
also depends
interception.
how honest people are being.
Right.
Because the
Emotional.
question is what's most likely to happen. So it's what you think Jimmy Haslam's going to do as opposed to what you would do personally. But I would say that last week it would have been 60-40 Fire.
I think
which is
even
crazy.
higher. I think even higher.
70.
Yeah,
And I'll say
65-70.
60-40 extension right now. You guys saying 70?
Jason said 70-30 Fire last week.
65-70 last week.
Gee,
Fire.
what do you think?
I'm Duke and knee-jerk 70.
So I asked that question right now. We have 350 votes. I'm going to refresh one more time to get the final number. 352 votes. 90% extend Stefanski.
Wow.
90.
Wow.
And if they lose to the Ravens, it's going to be 30%.
Yeah. yeah.
G. Bush, how many super chats last week did we get saying fire Stefanski?
Yeah.
He
Oh.
should not be the
Hey,
head coach of this football
we
team.
spent half the show talking about, we reading super chats because they was like, get him up out of here.
But you know what's interesting about that is, so I wrote last week on The Athletic, this is his best season. And I was expecting that reaction of, you're an idiot, I can't, and whatever, I don't care. But actually, a number of the comments were finally, someone supporting him, and we see it, and it's a vocal minority that hates. I was amazed at how many people were in support of him. So it's almost like it's the audience. The audience changes depending on the platform that you're on, I think.
Definitely.
You know, it's
yeah.
it's interesting. Athletic people seem to love him, and UCSS viewers hate him. Although if it's
Not
90%
based on that
today,
poll. It varies. And
But the comments in the chat are 2 different entities too.
Yeah, that's true.
The comments under the page are grossly different from the chat that happens during the show.
And then, there's going to be a lot of interesting discussions this offseason, especially, depending on how the rest of the season goes.
and to answer Mike's question,
Yeah.
Jimmy Haslam extended Hugh, gave him an
which was
extension.
insane.
But and that's why Jimmy doesn't want to keep blowing this up.
No,
he's
that's right.
desperate to get something that works. He was so desperate to get something that works, he gave Hugh an extension, a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
What was first? 1-15 or 0-16?
1-15.
All right. After 1-15,
We were
was.
remember, because Hugh said, if we get any worse, I'll jump in the lake. or
Yeah,
whatever. I
yeah,
don't know
that's
exactly
right.
what
That's
he said.
crazy.
I can't remember now. I'd have to go back and look at the timing of it. But they gave Hugh a year extension during all of that because they were so desperate for stability to make it work. So I think, without question, it's more likely that he's extended than fired.
Yeah. Wasn't the only win over that 2-year stretch against the Chargers and a missed field
Chargers,
goal or something?
late December game.
It was Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was-
December 20.
that was crazy.
was a home game.
RG3 started that game.
Now he's on his studio desk.
Go ahead.
That is a great
man.
transition to a little special teams talk, which we have not spent probably enough time in. I almost said it.
Before
Totality.
Before you go to special teams,
Yeah.
let me just, before I forget, because I forgot to write
good.
this down, I want to say something else. You know, we talked about Brady Quinn's comments about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else saw this. Willie Colon, the former Steeler offensive lineman, was on somewhere.
Is that thing you sent last night?
Yeah.
I
And
think that was old.
Oh, was that old?
I don't think that was.
Anthony says it's 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
like all the comments on that were 3
Even
weeks
still,
ago.
that was another player taking shots at a guy for saying he should play even though he's injured.
Yeah. He's hurt. Like, the injury's legit.
I
He's
can't believe how many
legitimately
guys
hurt.
have just. It's ridiculous.
Do you know? Here's the thing. This is the era we live in. We live in a place where people validate their own opinion on the same level as experts. Now, because the internet
This
is
guy's
out,
a former player.
well, here's the thing. He could
Yeah.
be an idiot too.
That's true.
Like, there's a lot of former players.
I've seen a lot of idiots in locker rooms.
Yeah, like
yeah,
I'm like,
that's true.
like these people now hold themselves so high that their opinions, and then people are oblivious to real facts. You ask somebody a real fact, you'd be like, is the sky blue today? They'd be like, well, I don't know. Like, there's people that believe the earth is still flat, bull.
Yeah, that's true.
And so
Kyrie Irving.
if you got a bunch of people who think that,
Yeah.
you just got to leave them alone and say whatever they going to think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see that a lot when people talk about injuries and he's not injured. There's literally, I think 60% of the people that when they comment on Deshaun Watson, they keep saying, there's no tear in there. There's no tear. There's nothing. He doesn't have anything. There's no I'm like, bro, like, what are you? Listen, if you got a character that's just a letter, if you got a picture of somebody else like a dog or a Happy Meal, or if you just don't, no, you don't count. Your voice does not count. It doesn't. You got to stop paying attention to cats like that. And I need to do it. I try to do a
agree
job,
with you, but
better job.
when I hear former players take shots, it's always surprising to me.
So how do you? So think about
Even
it.
though it's a couple weeks old, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's still
applies.
crazy.
If the industry is flooded with everybody that wants to be somebody who talks about sports
Yeah.
for a living, how do you get noticed and recognized? Do you come up
Say
with
stupid
do
stuff,
you
I
say
don't know.
dumb things instead of being like no one cares about your statistics?
Yeah.
You got to say something to be hot.
Yeah, Willie Colon on the Craig Carton show.
Hang on, one more thing before we're just kind of skipping around, but before you get to special teams, I thought of something on Stefanski that Mike, I think I saw the graphic. Did you put it in our text? Do you have that on Brown's record after losses?
I have the numbers for you.
Under
Yeah.
Kevin?
I can tell you real quick, but
This is nuts. I
it
didn't
is
know
fascinating.
this.
We're gonna talk about this later in the week because
Oh, sorry.
but it's worth mentioning real quick. Not according, I did the math myself. I double checked. But CBS showed a graphic yesterday that said Kevin Stefanski is now 19-7 in games following a loss, which is interesting because he's 10-18 in his career in games following a win. And we're going to dive into whether that's just a weird trend, an anomaly. He's about a career 500 coach. He's 31-27 for his career. So when you add it up, it makes sense that he
Win
wins
one,
and he
lose
loses,
one,
and he
win one,
wins and
lose
lose.
one. Yep.
But he is 19-7. That's the third best record in NFL history in games following a loss. But he's 10-18 in games following a win. So
they
we're gonna
handled
add to that
failure
category.
well, but they don't handle success well.
Yeah,
I
it
don't know.
doesn't make a lot of sense, and we're going to dive into that deeper. And I want to get a little more context to
Yeah.
it before we make it a topic.
All right.
What we do have context on is how well the Browns special teams has played as of late. Prochet in the punt return game added a nice element we hadn't seen. Bjorquez might be the best punter in football. And even D-Hop, who missed a field goal, is one of the best
all of
kickers
this.
right now.
Look, I want to start with Bjorquez. Bajorquez, sorry. Because Bajorquez was slandered for years
As a holder.
as a holder,
Yep.
being blamed. And I kept saying, well, yeah, that one year that kicker was a rookie and blah, 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 blah. And there were people, including people on this show, slandering and trying to blame the Cade York struggles on Bjorquez. And what we've seen this year...
Bajorquez.
I keep screwing up the guy's name. I'm usually really good at pronouncing names. I'm going to just avoid his name the rest of the
Corey.
Just call him Corey B.
Corey B. What we've seen this year is the kicker's been great.
Yep.
And so he did not deserve any of that slander. But as a punter, he is a weapon for the Browns.
Oh, yeah.
That you rarely talk about, but he's done a great job.
The only thing that I don't think he's really good at is being able to spin it at the goal line. All of his kicks bounce into the end zone. Have you noticed that? He doesn't have a lot. I mean, if they fair catch him, whatever. But if he tries to drop it inside the 10 or inside the 5, a lot of kickers can just kill it right there. And I think it's changed the game because it used to be, for returners, put your heels on the 15 and anything over your head, let it go.
Yeah.
And that's not the case anymore. No. Guys are calling for fair catches now inside the 10 or the fielding punts. I'm like, when did this change? Well, punters have gotten so good at spinning it
back
and being able to kill it at the goal line. And his, for whatever reason, seemed to trickle into the end zone. That is the only thing you can say about him. And if anything, his leg is too good because he's outkicked the coverage a couple times. But he can bomb it. He's got
he never kicks it short.
No,
never.
He can flip the field. Like if you're on the 15, if he's kicking from the 15 or 20, he can kick it to the 15 or 20.
Did he kick one? Didn't he land one inside of 20?
Well, it rolled. He had a 75-yard punt yesterday.
Yeah, 73, I think.
And that's when they almost got the safety because Thornhill and the blitz.
I just mean if you're kicking it from like the 45.
Oh,
right.
And you need to kill it. You need to spin it and kill it inside the 5. A lot of his going to the end zone.
If he can get it angled to get it out of bounds, he's fine. But yes, you're right. That's fair. But if the worst part of my punter is that it goes into the end zone, I can live with that. Like, there's a lot of punters that every couple of punts, they kick it short.
Yeah.
You know, he never has that problem. He's done great on the holding. In terms of D-Hop, had his first miss yesterday.
Here it comes. I told you it's November.
He did make his first two.
I'm kidding. No, I know. It was 62 and no wind yesterday. It was perfect.
He's immune. Listen, he has diplomatic immunity.
That was a good time to miss it because it didn't matter. Everyone was like, oh, well.
Now listen, these next 2 weeks,
better not miss any big kicks.
Better not miss them.
And
we're pulling you off the Ring of Honor.
James Prochet, I believe is his name.
I keep trying to call him Procise. Why?
Right. There used to be a Procise.
I did. I don't know who he is, but I keep messing this man's name.
Is it James Prochet?
It is Prochet.
Looks like they found something here, guys. Because I thought he did a great job returning punts, and his numbers were good, and he had one that was called, or two that were called back on penalties.
It was one game. I want to see it again, but yes, yesterday he was great.
Yeah,
if he can get 9 yards per return, that is huge because basically it was just catch it and fall down.
Right.
With DPJ up until then.
Well, a lot of teams have a returner where you just don't screw it up.
Just don't muff it. Yeah.
But yesterday, for one day, I know it was a bad team. I don't know if their special teams are bad or anything. But for one day, he looked like a legit weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is a wide receiver with all the injuries. You wonder if he's going to do anything.
A little bit of breaking news. Kevin Stefanski said Jed Wills is going to the IR with an MCL injury, but it is not season-ending.
Yeah, okay. Well, what's the injury? An MCL? What did?
They just said with an MCL injury.
Yeah, I mean.
And Marquise Goodwin in concussion protocol.
Right.
I had heard, Zach and I did it on the podcast. A couple guys in the locker room said yesterday MCL. Zach said that's probably a month. So I don't think it's like a torn surgery type thing, or he would be out for the year.
Yeah, so he sprained it or something?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But
a sprain is a slight tear.
If he's on not a full tear, that would require surgery.
Right.
If he's going on IR, Zach was right. That's a month. So he's out a month.
I mean,
minimum.
Offensive linemen can play with some stuff that other players can't, obviously.
But, it looked worse in the moment. It looked worse.
Yeah,
when you see an air cast and you're carted off, you fear.
Well, you saw him howl. I mean, on TV, it looked like he was howling in pain.
Yeah, and he was screaming.
Yeah.
And so you fear a broken leg,
Yeah.
Right.
So all in all, it's probably about
the
best
fact
case scenario.
that they can get him back at some point this season. I mean, we got, the Browns have 9 games to go. So even if he misses 4 or 5 games, get him back in December or, some point in December. And, all right, now, listen, that's life.
You can live with James Hudson for
There's
a couple
football,
games.
there's injuries.
You can live with James Hudson for a couple games, but I'd rather it not be the 2 opponents that they've got coming up.
We'll see. So. Again, I don't think Jed Wills was very good. I know he's a little better these last couple of games. I thought he was not having a particularly good game. I know injuries, he wasn't 100% healthy.
He's playing on one leg. And I know if you're on the field, you're
expected
to produce.
And so,
but he was playing on one leg even before he was carted off.
So now, listen, if James Hudson can't get it done, then they got to go find someone else, whether it's on the practice squad or on the street. I mean, it's not easy. It's not an ideal situation.
No.
But the Browns have overcome a lot in terms of injuries on the offense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Back to Prochet, though, real quick. there was a little burst he had in the punt return game. That I know DPJ, we had talked enough about the fact that he wasn't necessarily the most dangerous punt returner, but there's something about kind of the energy and the transfer of energy from a 3-and-out, which the Browns got, I think, 8 of them yesterday, into a punt, and then you're working with short fields. And when all 3 of those complementary facets are working together, the Browns are really damn tough to beat.
I mean, a lot of punt returning, beyond the athletic ability of the return, is the confidence, right? Like, you're standing – I've never done it, obviously, but I think it's pretty easy to imagine if you're standing there waiting to catch a punt and all these guys are flying down the field at you.
Running as fast as they can to hit you as hard as they can.
You got to have nerves of steel to be decent at that job.
Think about it. If you're say, for instance, you are a center fielder and you need to catch a baseball. But there's like 5 or 6 dudes chasing you, ready to punch you in the face when you beat them.
Exactly.
And then you got to fight the elements. The ball is moving, and when they kick it so high that the ball actually goes above the lights, and then you got to track the football while you're doing all this stuff.
Right.
It's crazy.
And you know, the second you catch it, somebody might smash you.
Crazy.
Right. So it's tough. And he, for one game, looked like he was playing with a lot of confidence.
Yes.
Right, so, and that's, DPJ never played that position with confidence.
Well, listen, for him, his wife is telling him when he gets his lunch pail, hey, you might want to do something, dog.
Yeah, right.
Like they gave you they got rid of, that's the quickest name switch and number flip I've ever seen. They sold that 11 on that jersey so fast, they didn't even give it time to let us pour out no liquor for DPJ.
No.
We couldn't pour nothing out for the homies. And he already out of here. Then his wife was like, listen, you might want to do something because they need a returner. And that's been the worst kept secret in Cleveland. Hey, now let's see if you can do it when it counts in Baltimore. Is that a 1 o'clock game?
I believe so.
Yeah, they didn't flex it. I'm surprised, but they did not flex it.
It is 1 o'clock on Fox.
Yeah, okay. I don't like. I don't like. For me, I like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock games, unless it's just Monday Night Football or something. But I like my 1 o'clock.
I don't like night games.
I loved it last night, being able to watch the Bengals last night.
Right, just chill and relax, not have to
worry about other games.
I like a 1 o'clock win for the Browns is the best thing ever.
Night games, I ain't leaving the press box.
I hate when the Bengals and Browns play at the same time. It sucks for me. Not that anybody else cares. By the way, James Prochet was a 6th-round pick by the Ravens in the 2000 draft and had been with the Ravens.
2000? No.
Oh, sorry. 2020. Big difference. 2020, and he spent 3 years with the Ravens. I think before the Browns signed him to the practice squad last week, I think he was out of the league. I think he got cut by somebody, whatever. But and he has played some wide receiver. I don't know, how much he's done here, but anyway.
Hey, he's worth the spot on the 53 if he can return punts.
Absolutely. But I do think, as we kind of sum up the entire game here, obviously great win. We'll look ahead to Baltimore the rest of the week because this is going to be a huge game and a tough contest, and there's a reason the Browns are a decent underdog for this game because the Ravens are playing. We were talking about this before the show. Was where the Browns rank right now in the AFC. Think about that for a minute. Let's talk about the Guardians for a sec. Stephen Vogt is the new manager. Go ahead.
I just want to – we made something for you, Bull, real quick. And, Stevie, take tag word.
You guys trying to make
up
up for their
behavior earlier. We do love you, Bull. We do love you. We wanted the proper time before we talk Guardians to make the appropriate graphics and stuff. So, Anthony, if we could get the Stephen Vogt bio up here, please. We even have a bio for him.
It's bad enough Earl steals all his takes from his cousin.
Well, this is the new Guardians manager, Stephen Vogt. Bull, feel free to chime in. You know him better than we all do.
What I wanted to say before is but I'll get to it in a second. Stephen Vogt just retired at the end of the 2022 season. So he's only been retired for a year. He went on the Mariners coaching staff. Okay. Now, many good managers in Major League Baseball are former catchers. Mm-hmm. We've seen it time and time again. This guy has, again, I thought the Guardians needed I wanted out of the organization, they needed a fresh voice and a fresh perspective. I thought they needed a younger manager after many years of a veteran manager. Terry Francona did a great job here. I think he's going to connect with players because he just retired as a player. Now, when Stephen Vogt's name was first mentioned as a possibility for the Guardians, I texted my friend Mike Ferrin. For those who don't know, Mike is hosts a show on MLB Network Radio. I would say Mike, in my opinion, and I'm very snobby about my baseball knowledge, I would say I have never met or heard anybody on the radio that did not play Major League Baseball that knows more about baseball than Mike Ferrin. And he knows a lot of the players because he spends a lot of time around the fields and whatever. Anyway, I asked him his thoughts on Vogt, and this is what he said to me. He said, I am a huge, all caps, fan. Incomparably good human, bright, data savvy with old school edge. There'll be some bumps in the road learning on the job, but you'd be hard pressed to find a better human being to get that job. I think it's important when you hire an inexperienced manager to find a veteran bench coach, right? A guy who's been around the league in a while. But I think this is a really nice hire by the Guardians, guys.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, I guess, that this is the way it went. I didn't think Craig Counsell was coming here. I know that's been a name that's been rumored. I never saw it because what's the difference in Cleveland and Milwaukee? It's a small market, payroll limitations.
Yeah, if he's going to leave, he's going to go to the Mets where they're going to spend a ton of money.
He's going to go to New York if he goes anywhere. And Vogt always, Vogt's name sort of emerged a couple weeks ago. Jeff Passan put it out there, and so it was always sort of floating in the ether. Young guy, first opportunity. We talked about with Kevin Stefanski. He's got to learn on the job. He's got to get better over the years, and you would hope that the Guardians have a pretty good track record in terms of hiring. So you would hope that Vogt will be here for quite a while, in the mold of Terry. Now the interesting thing is Tito was one of the highest paid managers in the game. Like they were writing checks for Terry. Obviously, that's not going to be the case with him.
Correct.
So does this free up a little bit more money now that you can then funnel back into the payroll? Just
Isn't that sad that we'd have to have that conversation?
I'm just pointing it out.
I mean, that's
he was Terry. I think Tito was making in the neighborhood of $5 million.
He was the highest paid manager in baseball.
Stephen Vogt's probably making $1 million.
Probably.
Right.
So I mean, every dollar counts. So maybe they can now funnel that money back into payroll. We'll see.
I don't know much about him. Hopefully, they do right by him. In terms of, are you going to go out and get, some bats for the man? Are you going to go out? Because here's the thing. Anybody you bring in after Tito, you gotta realize this: the organization is in a very vulnerable spot. Because when you do have Tito, what happens is guys like me, fair weather guys, or guys that are, I'm gonna watch you if you get to the playoffs, or if you got a great team. The fair weather people is where you make your money at. The fair weather guys, the walk-up crowds, those guys, that's where they're going to be putting money in your pockets. But if you look at it and you got a guy who comes in that doesn't really have any cachet, he's a new guy, not really a face of anything, they're not going to be patient like that.
Yeah.
They're not going to be waiting on you year after year.
Right.
You got to show them dividends today.
Yeah.
Tito was like a dam. He held a lot of stuff back, because the hard baseball people wouldn't let the other baseball people jump all over him because he'd be like, listen, it's Tito, be cool. You lucky to have him.
He's not getting that.
He's not getting that.
No, and they do need to add some bats, and that's something we'll talk about down the line.
It is interesting. You don't want to be the guy who replaces the legend. You don't want to be Ron Zook to Steve Spurrier.
Right.
You want to be Urban Meyer to Ron Zook. You want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaced the guy.
Yes.
So that's something he's going to have to overcome. But the organization, Tito talked about this when at the end of the season that this organization's in a really good spot. And a lot of times when you have a new manager coming in, it's because the team sucks. And everybody got fired, and you're in the middle of a rebuild, and you're going to lose a ton of games. That's not the case. This is a really, really good job. So, hopefully Vogt can come in. I think it's
it's decent. They got a lot of work to do in the lineup.
They do, but I said this during the season. They could flip this. It fell apart relatively quickly from where they were last year to how this year went. They could flip it back. They're a couple bats away from really flipping this back. The pitching is sound. The farm system is there. They just need a couple of things.
They're going to flip Bieber this offseason.
And they can turn this.
More on that. By the way, I'll be doing a podcast. I was going to do it tonight, but I'm just going to wait till tomorrow morning, and I'll talk more about this and more about what they need to do offensively. Free agency, I believe, starts either – I can't remember if it's today or tomorrow that it officially
starts. The GM meetings
are
coming up.
So there you go. All right.
Wait, free agency in baseball starts already?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Guys file after the World Series, right after the World
It
Series.
starts 5 days after the World Series ends.
Oh, I thought it was a week and 5 days. That's bad job
No.
out of me.
I can't remember if it's today or tomorrow. I don't remember the exact date that the World Series ended now. But anyway, I want to get back to the NFL and talk about this division, guys. Obviously, we're going to spend a lot of time this week talking about the Ravens as the week comes up, but this is crazy. I gave you guys a stat, which nobody responded to, even though I thought it was an interesting stat. Well, I'm being annoyed at you people.
We retweeted it, Bull.
Bull's in his feelings
Did you?
today.
Patty LaBoule.
What was it?
So the stat was that I tweeted last night, AFC North teams are combined 17-6 in non-division games. So think about it. And as of today, all 4 teams are in the playoffs. Now, we've never had that before. Now, it's only been possible since 2020. But I wonder how many times a division has had 4 teams win 10 games, which could happen. Now, I still think the Steelers will fall short of 10 games, but I think the other 3 teams in this division are going to win 10 games. But you want to compare that. You look at that stat, 17-6 in non-division games. Well, how does that compare to the rest of the NFL? The next best record is the NFC East.
Not a surprise.
14-11.
Also a really good division.
All right? The AFC North teams playing out-of-division games have a 740 win percentage.
Yeah.
Basically 3 out of 4 games they're winning. NFC East is second at 560. No other division is more than a game over 500.
Wow.
And the AFC North is 7. I think 3 of the 6 North losses are the Steelers out of the division. I believe the Browns, Ravens, and Bengals have combined for 3 losses out of the division, I think. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm doing math. Seattle for the Browns. Baltimore lost to Indianapolis.
Right, and the Bengals lost to Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's their only non-division.
That's it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so this division is by miles better than any other division.
Did we talk about this before? Has there ever been a division where every team finishes with a winning record?
I'm sure that's happened.
No, I don't think it because
No?
Because
only
it
had
would
the
have to be
17th
9.
game.
It would have to be 9-7 in the old days. 8
Right.
wouldn't count. And I can't believe there was a division. Maybe there was. Maybe it's happened multiple times. I don't know.
AFC
I'll
West.
look into it.
Maybe the AFC West because they had the Rams, Cardinals,
NFC West.
NFC West, Rams, Cardinals, 49ers.
I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing it has, but not very often.
Yeah.
I'm really guessing that no division has ever won 10 games, although now there's 17 games.
Right. Right.
But all 4 teams in this division are on pace to win 10 games or more. I mean, it's just bananas. So if the playoffs started today, the Ravens would win the division, and the wild card teams would be the Steelers, the 5 seed, the Browns, the 6 seed, the Bengals, the 7 seed.
7.
It's nuts. Go ahead, Mike.
So Jason, we have to go way back to find the last time it happened.
Good work
So
on
far,
you.
we got to go
Find
back
it
to
that
last
fast.
year.
Oh, really?
Last season, the
Yep.
NFC East,
And
Philadelphia,
NFC East.
Oh, that's right.
14-3, Dallas 12-5, the Giants 9-7-1, and Washington 8-8-1. So that was with a 500.
8-8-1's not over 500.
No. But I meant that's the last time 5. There's not been a time where it's been all 4 teams over.
Over
Never?
500.
According to the 2 Google searches I just did, never.
I wrote something about the NFC East, and I got yelled at for it. I got it wrong. I thought it was that. But 8-8-1.
8-8-1's
Well,
not over.
somebody said, has the entire division ever made the NFL playoffs? And it says, no, they can't.
No, but it's never been possible
Right.
That's
before
only
2020.
possible the last 2 years.
Because they just went to the 3rd wild card this past year, or 2020 was the first time they went to the 3rd wild card. If you had to predict right now how many teams in this division make the playoffs, what do you got?
I can't say more than 3. I think 3.
Yeah.
I can't say 4.
So who doesn't make it? The Steelers?
I think it's Pittsburgh. Yeah, I think it's Pittsburgh doesn't make
I
it.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree too.
I think.
But that team just terrifies me, though. They just find ways to win, man. It doesn't matter who they roll out there. They never beat themselves.
Impressive. You look at the competition in this division. Obviously, Pittsburgh wasn't great, but they found a way to beat Tennessee, as they seem to do. But Baltimore and Cincinnati both with very impressive wins. I mean,
Yes.
Baltimore just demolished Seattle 2 weeks after they demolished Detroit.
Yep.
And the Bengals, the score was close at the end, but the Bengals were in control of that game with Buffalo the whole way if you watched.
For me, somebody said this a little bit like the Steelers. Remember the Steelers were like 12-0?
Yeah. It felt fraudulent. I think it was 11-0.
11.
Yeah.
The hope is that the Ravens are playing their best ball too early. Lamar Jackson, just by the way he plays the game, is prone to nicks and bumps and bruises and things like that. And hopefully, the Browns can catch them when they didn't play their best. Because it's hard in the NFL to play your best game. The way they played against Detroit and the way they played against Seattle was lights out. It's very hard to do that.
It is,
3
but
weeks in a row.
The really good teams, and right now the Ravens look like a really good team. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. They can do that for most of the year or all the year. Lamar's healthy and playing. I thought Lamar had gone backwards the last 2 years. He'd been hurt. He hadn't played well. He's playing very well, and their defense is as good as the Browns.
Yep.
I mean, they're 1-2.
They've given up fewer points than the Browns in one more game.
Yeah.
So when you talk
and
about,
if you look at some of the analytics, the Browns and Ravens are 1-2.
Yeah.
All over the place. Go ahead, Mike.
We're gonna do super chats in a couple minutes, but real quick, Bull. We were in the Muni Lot yesterday. G, you were with us as well. And I want to spend just 2-3 minutes real quick talking about that experience. I know G said he hadn't been down there in over a decade.
Yeah.
And Bull, it was the first time you've been down there in quite a while, too. So what'd you think?
Well, do we have any pictures or videos or anything you want to show? Or
we'll pull them up, but just while you're talking, we'll just kind of roll through them and stuff.
So I got to say, and I think, G, you had this experience too, because we were talking about this after. When you don't, since I've been doing this job, like when I was on the Fan, I interacted with fans more in person.
Because you did remote.
Because we did so many remote broadcasts. But because, they overdid it with the remotes, a lot of times by the last couple of years, remember, the last couple of years, I wasn't going into the studio because of COVID and my wife's situation. So really, I haven't interacted with the fans much for 4 years, since pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And so the interaction has mostly been on social media. And I always complain that players hear what they want to hear. And to some degree, myself and other media members do the same thing. I know a lot of people in the media that don't look at their mentions because people are crappy to them and whatever. And I always felt like I had to look at my mentions.
You can say my name.
Well, it's not just you. It's a lot of people. I felt like I owed it to the fans that were supportive, which is the majority of fans, to be interactive with them. That's just how I felt, And so my long-winded story is that yesterday was really a reminder of how many people love you and care about what you do, and you make a difference in people's lives. I'm not curing cancer. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing anything that's gonna that in the grand scheme of things, I guess, is that important. But people, they're driving home, they're listening. You meet. It's always weird when I meet. Like the other day, I met some 18-year-old who was like, "I've been listening to you since I was a little kid," and I'm like, "Wow, my God!" It's a whole generation of fans. You and I must have talked to a couple of hundred people. We couldn't get anywhere because every 2 seconds somebody's like, Bull G, and Mikey McNuggets. And it was just insane how amazing people were. They invited us to their tailgates. They invited us into their buses and their vans.
They told their stories.
And it was such an incredible experience.
I thought it was a beautiful thing. And sometimes what you don't understand is, and Jason and Jay say this a lot. They say it like, people on Twitter or chats or comments, that's 10% of the population.
Yes.
That may be the loud 10. When I went out there, I saw people that just loved being around, being happy.
Yeah.
All different races, shapes, sizes of people, men, women. The guys are out there, literally, kids out there in their gear, having fun, and are oblivious to the rest of the stuff. They're like, listen, today, Sunday, I'm enjoying the Browns. I enjoy being around other Browns fans. And whether or not we win, lose, or draw, we're going to come back Sunday because this is what we do. We support our team.
Right.
And that energy was like, it uplifts you. It is positivity.
Really,
and it makes you think. You always say, you're going to get a picture of what the Browns community is, but always watch. Don't put all fans in one bucket.
That's
because there's people out there that have been traveling putting money. Guys talk about, hey, I'm down here at 4:30. I've been out here 20 years. Earl's cousin, we say he came up to us. He's been doing that same two-step shuffle since '99. Never missed a game.
Yeah, just shout out to all the fans. And we took pictures with 1 million people. We had such a great time. Everybody was so nice. And the weather was perfect. I mean, we just had, we were giving stuff away. By the way, the question we got asked the most, of course, or not the question, but the statement that was said the most is,
yes,
I can't believe how big G. Bush is.
It was crazy.
I must have had 50 people say that to me.
They're like, I didn't know, man.
I'm like, the man played defensive tackle in college.
Division I.
Small?
They were like freaked out. They were like, hey, G. Bush, like your stuff, but I didn't know you were that big, bro.
Right, Mike? That's the people.
Every time I'm out, if someone recognizes me, the first question they ask is, Bull really like he seems?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, he's 100% authentic. And is G really that big? And I'm like, yeah, he's a giant.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
we got some super chats we got to read, and whenever we read super chats, it's brought to us by our dear friends at PCC Airfoils. You're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits. PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Manor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions, starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. We got a bunch today, guys, so I'm going to fly through these pretty quickly. The first one comes from West Gamer. He says, tell Jason LLLLL Lloyd to hold those for me. Deshaun is back. Next week is huge. Let's go. Professor Chaos said, should the Browns look into getting...
I don't get it.
Hold the L.
Okay, I got to see
LL,
I see.
Because apparently I'm a Deshaun hater.
Should the Browns look into getting Lyle Collins? Did he sign yet?
No.
Is he still free agent? Okay. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We're going to do a whole offensive tackle thing tomorrow. Ricky Ponzi says, Kevin must have got the memo because he ran the damn ball. Dontavius Winston said, Tune and DTR put in the same position, a real tough place for a fifth-round rookie. Rick George says, cheeky question, but what does Miss Nuggets call him? Me? Oh, she calls me Mike. Real question. Jordan Elliott and Taki, how much is that to coaching? Sorry. That question took me back.
You done ruined that man's punchline.
I thought he was going to say she calls me daddy.
Yeah. Ruined it.
Yeah, sorry, that one caught me off guard. Will Meeker said, nobody mentioning how Watson once again took a huge hit before going Super Saiyan. It's been a few times now where those hits woke him up, right? It is true. He took a big hit yesterday, and then the second half,
I liked it.
Kind of
I liked the fact that he took a couple hits and kept ticking. I like that.
Rick George said, I forgot to mention JOK, Delpit
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned Delpit, by the way. He led the team in tackles yesterday. He played really well, too.
Okay, I got this now.
Yeah.
Okay, Anthony put this through the translator for me. I forgot to mention JOK, Delpit have their rookie signatures on my helmet. Poor OBJ signed jersey. It's looking sad. Chris said, finally had a game where the punt returners didn't feel flat. Do we finally have a punt returner? We talked about Prochet.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones I need to be confident in saying his name. I'm just not confident yet.
Orquez.
Halim
Bajorquez.
Youssef said, credit AB for the talent upgrade. Also, please consider doing an AFC North breakdown segment every Tuesday since it's such a close division. It will be a fun march towards the playoffs. We will do a little more of that, especially the next 2 weeks. LGBs said, Tegna, get Bull a laptop. Happy Victory Monday. Peter R. says, was at both Cleveland games yesterday. A great day for Cleveland sports. The Cavs beat the Warriors. Yeah. Rick George says, what's the post cost to send Kool-Aid merch to Australia, G? You shipped to Australia, right?
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of other countries, we met a fan who had flown in from Germany yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
There's a video up, a YouTube short. Where
check out the shorts. We do have videos out of the conversations we had with the people. Those are out on these shorts.
Couple more. Coop 0021 says, what led to Jordan Elliott's improvements this year? We think Jim Schwartz and some other talent around the offensive line helped. And then he asked if defensive line. He said, please help raise awareness for this local Cleveland Rescue Dogs fight against cancer. Help Parker fight cancer on GFM. Won't we post a link? Tweet it at us, Coop, and we will retweet that for you and hopefully help Parker fight cancer. Set Apart Laz said, hey, Google, how to contain Lamar Jackson. That'll be a topic this week, I promise you. James Cosby said, finally got one, called it last week. Attitude game for the defense versus the Cardinals. Daryl, our personal bodyguard in the Muni yesterday, said UCSS, the talk of Cleveland, Kool-Aid Mafia in the building. Bull, McNuggets, Jason G, love you guys. Cavs 1-2.
Yep.
And last one comes from William Slater. Said UCSS should do a pregame show from the Muni Lot. It would be fire. Potentially. Stuff like that's in the works. The Muni Lot's a tough area to go live. There's a lot of chaos down there.
Yeah.
And it's
By the
tough
way,
to
we
stay
get to
focused.
the Muni Lot, and like the smell of marijuana is just like all over the place.
Yeah, it's
and I'm
crazy.
like, oh my God, because I haven't been to the Muni Lot, like I think it was like 7-8 years since I've been there. And I was like, wow, that is a powerful smell. And Mike can't smell anything. I thought he was, I don't know, I didn't remember that or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he's talking about
Yeah,
this.
I have no sense of
he
smell.
don't smell anything. And so I'm talking to Gabby, his girlfriend, later, and I'm like, well, this is great for you. You don't even have to shower around it.
That's crazy,
And
right?
she was like, yeah, it's true. You can't
Yeah.
smell me anyway.
You know what? Can you taste?
Yeah, so people have asked me this. There's no way to compare like apples to apples. But if you put barbecue chips, salt and vinegar chips, regular cheddar, like I can tell you the chips. I'm sure there's little nuances I can't pick up on, but I can't pick up most taste. And real quick, someone asked Miss Nuggets yesterday. Was like, "Hey, are you Miss Nuggets?"
Yeah.
Her ego.
Really?
We have an issue
You
now.
like that, huh?
We have an issue now. She
And we have
thinks
to
she's
thank-
more popular than we are.
And we have to thank her, too, because she did a lot of the picture
Yeah,
taking
shout out to the
and a lot of
photographer
the
Miss
videos.
Nuggets
Yeah.
yesterday.
So shout out to Mrs. McNuggets.
Yeah. We got overtime. We're talking a little Guardians, little Cavs, and it is Victory Monday. Enjoy it. There's no such thing as a bad win in the NFL, even if you're playing Clayton Tune and the Arizona Cardinals. We love you, Bull, and we love everyone.
See you
out there
tomorrow.
for watching.
Peace.
See you on overtime.
Or over.